Good afternoon. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 36. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. Today, I'm excited to have one of my buddies with us. I've been talking about him for a while and alluded to some of his stories and have told Lucas about how he's just a good, solid friend. I first met him at one of the Pursuit events I was serving at last year. And from when I first heard him start to share his story, I instantly felt connected with him. Not because we have similar stories or childhoods or even backgrounds. To be honest, they could kind of be looked at as the exact opposite of each other from many different perspectives. I felt connected with him because I knew he wanted more from his life. He truly wanted to help others. You could tell it was genuine, that he wanted to get away from the life that almost killed him multiple times, the life that got his brother murdered, the life that stole so many people from his life due to death, drugs, gangs, and the environment that he was stuck in. That life leads to death. He recognized this, and instead of playing the victim card and remaining stuck and just doing the same thing every single day, he wanted something different. He, as a kid, at least a kid in my eyes, was taking ownership and wanting to change. He was showing humility, and he was asking for help. He was being vulnerable and honest. It was raw. It was raw honesty that I hadn't seen in a long time. He was trusting God to enter into his life once again and save him. In the middle of a session at the very beginning of Pursuit, he speaks up and says, I want salvation right now. I want forgiveness. I want to be saved. This boldness, this simple step, led many other men, my brother included, Corey Dinnell, to follow suit as they realized they also all wanted, and more importantly, needed the same thing. This episode is going to be raw, and to be honest, it's going to be hard for some of you to listen to some of these stories. Now, you might not want your kids to hear some of these stories, but this is life, and this is a controlled environment for them to hear these stories, to be exposed to these things that, whether you like it or not, they will be exposed to them. This is his life and his story, and the truth will not be filtered. However, we'll also be respectful and selective on some of the things that we share and how we share them. Some of the things might be encrypted as we talk in code, but there will be things that most people forget happen to other humans and forget that people deal with these things, that this is some people's lives from the moment they are born until the day they die. His life story is, well, to be honest, absolutely crazy. And I'm thankful for the grace that God has given him so that he can be here today to share this with us. Ian, it's good to have you here, my friend. How are you?
I'm blessed, brother.
Good. Lucas, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? I want to just tell all of our listeners real quick, hey, thanks so much for hanging with us this week. We know we didn't get any Q's and A's out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've had some serious storms in the DFW area. We had like 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and you guys were out with us last night with a crew that was going and helping people chop down trees and clean up some neighborhood yards. And then currently in our studio, we're rocking like 82 degrees because
It's a little toasty.
Yeah, we lost our AC, our three-phase power, as I'm being educated by everybody on all that stuff. So while that's getting fixed, thank you guys so much for y'all's help last night, because that was huge for our community. And we'll get back with our Q&A sessions next week once things kind of calm down, Lord willing.
Yeah. That was fun last night, huh?
Yeah, it was good.
It was cool seeing, obviously, your leadership, Lucas, here at the church, but the other leaders that stepped up and were taking charge of everything.
Oh, bro. Yeah.
And just be like, all right, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And just seeing, like, a group of men and women. And there was a 15-year-old kid out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, he was 14. Today he's 15.
Yeah, today he's 15.
So, actually, today when he's listening, it's, he'll be 15 in one day.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, stud.
Happy birthday, Tucker.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, it was good seeing. Anyways, it was really good seeing people help other people. doing what the church should be doing, out there in the community, serving, spreading the word, helping people just to help because, hey, we had the ability to help. Let's go. So we appreciate being a part of it. I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it.
It's always good when you are asked by somebody like, hey, do you want to bring your chainsaw over? It's like, yep, absolutely.
Next stupid question.
I don't even care. I don't even care what else is happening right now. Yes, I want to bring my chainsaw over. I will meet you there.
Chainsaw, clippers, leather gloves. Like, let's
Come
go.
on.
Got my work gloves in.
That was it.
All right. So, Ian, we have a lot to talk about. We might get most of it in this episode. We might have you back up here again. I know you're coming up into town with a few buddies for the Echelon Front training that I'm doing on June 11th, right?
Yes, sir.
So we might hit some of that when you're back up here. But let's just start off with where are you from and what are some initial thoughts that you want to share, and then what's kind of like an impactful story that you remember from an early age, and then we'll build from there.
So I was born in Odessa, but I've lived all over West Texas. I've lived in Lubbock, La Mesa, Midland, San Angelo for a little bit, Big Spring. And so when people ask me where I'm from, I always just say West Texas.
Okay.
Where I want to start is I just wanted to let everybody know throughout, like, all these traumatic events, I always knew, even as a child, that God is real. There was moments where, as a kid, I think even before we had started going to church, I would just start praying out, asking for protection, asking for help, asking for guidance. And it was just a calling in my heart immediately. Like, I knew from a very young age God was real.
Okay. Well, I love that you share that, and it is very evident throughout the stories that I've heard, and I haven't heard, obviously, close to 90% of these stories that you have for us to talk about today. You always direct things back to God and His grace, and I love that you are a man of faith, but also bold with your faith, and also you've always been very transparent with like what you've done in life, whether you're proud of it or not, because you're like, hey man, I've done things that I shouldn't have done. And guess what? Every listener has done the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And so, like, the fact that you recognize that at a young age is awesome. But your ability to, reflect and say, all right, yeah, hey, I did these things. And then, just because, you were telling me a story the other day and you're like, I didn't know that this was wrong. And that's what's crazy is, like, there are things that people are going to do in life that you just don't know that you shouldn't be doing those things if you're not surrounding yourself with the right, proper people.
100%.
And that's why our environments it's important. And I think it's also awesome is you recognized, hey, this environment is not conducive to long-term success.
100%.
And while it may be easy to stay here, this is not what God had called for you.
No, so very early on, I recognized it was important to admit where I was wrong, because if I didn't, I would be complacent and I would be stuck in the same spot. There would be no room for growth. It's very closed-minded, and I always want to learn something new every day. If I think I know it all, if I'm not willing to put my faults on the line, how can I ever fix them? And there's moments where if one does that, they might feel, too vulnerable, or they feel stupid for oversharing, but honestly, as long as I'm growing in the right direction, it's 100% worth it.
Cool. Let's go. All right. So what do you want to talk about? What's a first memory or something, a story you want to share?
Okay. So to set the tone, I just wanted to reflect on what my very first memory was. So my dad, he had got my mom pregnant, and he says recently he found out that she was pregnant later on, but he didn't come into my life till 9 months after I was born. And, he said he automatically knew, and I automatically knew who was my father, but there was already addictions involved in his life. I'm not sure about my mother. I'm pretty sure she had started developing addictions as well. And I just remember as a young kid, I had to be maybe 1 to 2 years old, maybe a little older than 2, but definitely under 3. And it was a crazy night. I think they had been drinking all night, and they had been fighting all night. And something I learned is that the brain tends to remember traumatic events. And so
hold on to them.
This night was the very first memory I could ever have. And it's kind of rough to talk about because what it led up to. You know, I just remember hearing them fighting, stopping, drinking, yelling, start fighting again physically. And they did this all the way till dawn. And by the time dawn had hit, the fight had got so bad that my mom ended up outside fighting with my dad, completely exposed, covered in blood. I mean, 100% exposed. And I just remember being outside as a kid, and I'm pretty sure I didn't know how to talk at the time, but I just remember looking around, wanting help, but not knowing how to ask for it. It was like, it was almost like consciousness had already hit. Like I was looking for a way to try to help my mom, looking for a way to call out. And this memory actually came back to me after Pursuit because, you know, Pursuit is a powerful event, and there might be some things that are suppressed that you didn't know were suppressed. And after Pursuit, I realized I suppressed a lot of things that I didn't realize were still affecting me on a day-to-day basis as far as depression and stuff like that.
Okay. So you're less than 3 years old. You're hearing them fight all night long. And then, you know, you walk outside and your mom is not clothed, covered in blood, fighting with your dad.
And she has a knife, yeah.
She has a knife. And you're not sure how to communicate or express what's going on, but that's a major event, you know, in your development as a young boy. And so as you got older, like what was the interaction with your dad like, you know, and what was your living situation? Because I'm willing to bet after that or shortly after that, they end up separating or something happens to him, correct?
Absolutely. Well, so just like any kid, your dad is your hero. You know, my dad's 6'3", 6'4", got a deep voice, you know, and so like just seeing that, I'm like, oh, my dad's invincible, you know? But I was formulating I assume the type of thoughts everybody assumes about their dad. You know, my dad's a great guy, you know, no one could beat my dad up, this and that. But in reality, there was a lot of dark things happening that they try to shelter us from. There was brief moments where there was a little bit of stability, and I'm talking about maybe 6 and under, but they would split. There was a multitude of addictions. But yeah, he was in and out my life, and he would disappear for years at a time. You know, my mom blamed him. You know, he has these addictions to this, and this, and he blamed her. You know, she's crazy, which if you look at the origin of both of their stories, it's not perfect on either end. Yeah. Just to be transparent, not to put too much of my dad's business out there, but his dad abused him physically and sexually as a young child, and I think that affected him even though he had a better upbringing. My mother, my grandma ended up getting her life together, but my grandmother, she had a major addiction, so my mom had to deal with crackheads breaking into the house, trying to steal things. My mom had to fight off crack dealers as a young kid. And so my mom was raised by her grandmother, and her grandmother, which is my great-grandma, she ended up killing herself, and that devastated the whole family because it was like my mom had lost her mom, and that affected my mom to this day. It's affected our family in a very serious way.
Yeah, those are legitimate generational curses that get passed on, and you have the ability to break those.
Amen.
Which I think is incredible that you recognize that. So, a lot of chaos. So, one of the things we were talking about, you have written down is, you know, you used to go to the church to get food, right?
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what the First Church of Nazarene denomination is. I don't think it really matters. I know they're Christians, but they were a church that held dinner on Wednesdays, and they had breakfast on Sundays. And so while we would get to go to church and get burritos and stuff, it was a free meal. My parents were at home, you know, indulging in crack cocaine, and they used it as an opportunity to get high. But I saw it as a blessing. Immediately when I would go, I would always ask for extra burritos. You know, I would say I was hungry, but I would stuff them in my pockets and take them to my parents so that they could eat when I got home. Yeah, it was cool, though. I loved going to church. Generally, though, my attention span in school all the way up to about the 8th grade was not there. My mind was other places, you know. Honestly, growing up.
You're a boy.
Yeah, you're a boy.
That kind of is what we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you had some stuff, like legitimate things going on in your life.
Yeah, my mind it wasn't there.
You're trying to survive.
100%.
You literally are in survival mode at this moment. And this isn't a dig towards your parents or your grandmother that helped raise you, but you are living, whether you knew it or not, in a complete survival mode.
100%. And what's crazy is I didn't know that. See, my ability
how would you know that?
Well, honestly, I had some big moments because I was very adaptive. I could hang out with the worst of them, and I could hang out with the best of them just because I didn't discriminate, If you were a good person, I'd hang out with you. But generally, I didn't find out until I'd go stay the night at my friend's house that did have stability, and they were feeding us 3 meals and making sure everything was good. And I'm like, okay, maybe something isn't right at home. But for the longest, I thought the way I was living was how all other kids were living.
Yeah. Okay. So hanging out with other friends, their families, you see that things are different. Going to church, good people, right? They're feeding you. You're feeling welcome. You're hanging out there. I remember one time you were up in town and we went to church together and we were headed to go grab food. And, our kids just being kids, we're talking about, oh, no, I want to go here. I want to go here. Hey, we want to bring Ian here. And we want to, we're going to bring you to Marty B's for food.
Good food.
And yeah, really good food. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that when you were younger than my daughters, you used to have to, you would fight to make money to buy food. Groceries.
I mean, at that age, I saw it as a great opportunity. So to connect,
what, like 12?
I was like 9, 10.
9 or 10, fighting other kids his age. Like literally, the adults were betting on it, and he would put up his own money to bet against the adults. So I'm sorry, I'll let you share.
No, there's a lot of ways to connect it. So to add on to that, my ambition as a child was huge. I mean, I remember at the age of like 6, there was a guy who did construction next door, and I was like, if you need any work done, I'll come work for you. And he gave me the opportunity. I remember waking up at the crack of dawn, getting a lunchbox ready, and he just had me move some tumbleweeds around. But that was just like awesome. And then so leading that into having to fight, I don't remember.
So let me pause. You're 6, 7 years old, and you're waking up on your own to go work?
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, man.
I just knew we needed money. I mean, I wanted to make it happen by any means,
Okay.
Which later down the line could have been extremely detrimental to me even being alive or even being in the free world right now. Well, I don't remember how I got the $10, but there was an older gentleman on the block who made his living however he made his living, and he had a nephew who he had been teaching MMA to, and I think I went and asked him if I could, if there's any way I can make some money, and he was like, well, if you box my nephew, he's like, I'll bet your $10 against my $10. And I was like, let's do it. But generally back then, I didn't like to fight, honestly, because I was outnumbered. You get a lot of words thrown at you that might make you feel lesser, There's some I could think of, but I won't say. But I always knew I wasn't scared in my heart. I just knew the abuse I endured at home, I didn't want to inflict on others. And that's what I identified it later as down the road, which at a certain age, that transition happened where I was like, I'm ready to go against anybody. Yeah. I mean, I would even pray on it as a kid because, like I said, I was outnumbered. Being white in the hood, you are the minority. And so when I was a kid, I'd pray, God, just let me get big, and then I hit a growth spurt around 14, and I was fighting all the time. But yeah, anyways, I fought that kid. We fought like 2 or 3 rounds. He gave me another $10. He gave his nephew $10. Immediately, I walked 10, 11 blocks down to 7-Eleven, got me some milk and some Fruity Pebbles, and I went home, and I loved it because no one could tell me when I couldn't eat. I mean, the guy that was helping my mom at the time, he was a good dude. He had 2 other children. Unfortunately, he's no longer here. His oldest child ended up passing away, too, in a motorcycle crash. And his youngest son also lost an older sister that was on his mom's side. So right now, all he has is his mom. He's lost older sister, older brother, and his father. And his name's Jonathan. I'll go over my siblings here in a little bit. But, I got a lot of love for that kid. That guy, Gilbert, to add another story to it, at one point when I was living in Big Spring, I didn't know where my parents were. I know my dad had already left the picture. My mom had left the night before, and she hadn't came back since the night before. Don't know. I think she took my little sister. It was just me and my little brother, and we were hungry. We didn't know how to eat. We didn't know where we were going to get any food from.
Where were you guys living?
Where
were you left?
We were left at the house. We were just left at the house by ourselves. Nobody there. I think they might have went out to party the night before. I'm not sure of the details. But I just remember halfway through the day, I started panicking, and I was like, I got to get me and my brother some food. And this is before Gilbert had got with my mom. I went and knocked next door, and I was like, hey, Gilbert. Because I went to a couple neighbors first, but he was the one that gave me some food. He gave us some Lunchable packets, and it was enough to get us by till my mom got home, I think that night. And so that guy was a good guy. He was just hard on us, which was completely valid. Not a lot of men are taking the initiative to go be with a mom who has 4 kids, plus he has 2 of his own. So I have a lot of love for him. He did bring discipline into our life. He didn't joke around. He always had a paddle. We got swats. And I needed it, honestly. I was a wild kid. I mean, even when I got in trouble at school, he would take me to work with him at the airport as like punishment, and I loved being there more than at school. I was like, I'll come sweep the whole airport. Let's do it. I'm ready to go. But yeah, but they were very strict because times were tight. He's the only one bringing in income, and so even whenever we ate dinner, we couldn't have nothing to drink till after we were done. So it was good life lessons that I get to look back on, and when I'm having hard days, I just remember how far I've come.
Yeah, I mean there was locks, right?
Yeah. On the cabinets, because I mean it's valid. There's 4 kids, dude. We'll eat the whole house if you let us. But at the same time, it did suck. As a kid, you do feel like you're being deprived. But
I mean, yes. So you fight the kid, you win the money, you go buy Fruity Pebbles, and you're
Eating
stoked.
like a king.
Yeah, you're stoked because you can eat that because it's yours. You bought it. Because all the other food is locked up unless it's during meal time.
Yep.
Okay. Unfortunate that they had to do that, but which is incredible, you also understand why they had to.
Necessary.
It was
now I do. At the time, I was like, y'all hate me, I hate y'all, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Your dad is out of the picture for how long?
So that is a difficult timeline to tell you because he would be gone for years, and then he would pop back in.
Okay.
He ended up having to go to prison.
Okay.
So to kind of give an idea, I know that he had went to rehab, and that's when there was a major split between him and my mom. He had found another woman, ended up getting her pregnant. My mom's dad died, which I never got to meet my grandpa. He's also a big inspiration because I didn't know much about him until after he died. He had an aerospace engineering degree, master's degree, was a real smart guy, was in the military. And so just to hear that bit of greatness gave me hope. I got his last name. My last name's Hamilton. He was James Hamilton.
Let's go.
And
that's a strong name.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Ian Hamilton, strong name. James Hamilton, strong name.
Hey, man.
That's rad.
America.
That's cool.
America.
Yeah, America.
America. Let's go.
Well,
Bald Eagles just flew out of the studio. All right. Sorry.
But yeah, so that's one of the first times I got to live with him. She dropped me off there because I didn't want to ride to Oklahoma. She left me there with him, and I got to kind of see what he was like at that point. But I was so young. It was just, the routine, school, etc. Well, she came back, and my dad was like, we'll keep him. She was like, okay, if you want to keep him, you can. Well, I started going to school in La Mesa, and one day I was riding home, and his girlfriend at the time showed up, and she's like, hey, I got some bad news to tell you when you get home. Just go there and wait for me. And she was like, your dad, he went to prison, and he was gone for a couple years. And he had got her pregnant. She ended up having my little sister named Zava. Zava also has it very rough right now. Her mom's in prison. My dad has never been there for her. Her grandmother that raised her just passed, so she's 14 with no guidances. And that really hurts, because I'm not in a position to be able to help provide and go help. And that's a big thing, that I want to touch on, because as a man, whenever we feel like we can't provide, it can cause serious depression. It might lead to doing things that will take your freedom away or take your life. And something I had to realize is that I can't save everybody, but Jesus can.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
That took a burden off my shoulders that was sitting on it all my life. I mean, it wasn't until we had the birthday party at your house in December of 2022, and the next day, after when we were having breakfast at that cafe, that I recognized that only Jesus can save all of them, because if I allow it, the devil's going to use every opportunity to try to bring me down, because I know God has a big calling on my life.
Yes, he does. Okay. When your dad went to prison, what happened to you next?
So when
Where
my dad
did you
went
live?
I was still in La Mesa for a bit, and as a child, I always had a sixth sense for when things weren't the way they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I kind of I know that his girlfriend started having a substance abuse problem again because she had already been in rehab for it. And I was finding the bags of paraphernalia and all that. And so I started accumulating it, and we started having fights, and I ended up leaving.
How old?
I would have to say close to 11 years old, maybe 10 and a half, close to 11.
You're 10 years old, figuring out that your dad's girlfriend is doing drugs again.
Yeah.
And you recognize that, hey, this is wrong. So you confront her, turns into fights, and then you decide, I need to leave.
Yeah, well, yeah, she was like, you got to get out of here, which she didn't have to take care of me. She took care of me for maybe a month longer than that, which was more than she already had a child of her own. I'm not sure if she had already give birth to my little sister yet, but
Okay, got it. All right, so you leave, and then where do you go? What's next?
so I end up going back to Big Spring, and now my mom has this money that she got from my grandpa's passing. She gets a decent house, and my mom's always had a loving heart. Like deep down there, she has a good heart, and so she lets people come live with us. She let her childhood friend come live with us. My uncle Jordan, I got him on a pursuit. He ended up coming to live with us. He was lost. His mom was on disability. Like she was like diabetes had really taken over her body bad. So him and her take the back bedroom. She let another guy named Billy come live with us, plus all four of us kids. Plus she had a boyfriend. She ended up breaking up with that boyfriend, and then she let a guy come into our life that I swore that I was gonna do things to him one day,
Yeah.
And that guy, I'll tell you what kind of happened to him after I give context. What I always had a instinct in my heart when I knew a guy wasn't good. It came naturally. There was some that I could tell, like, okay, this dude's not gonna beat on my mom, but I could also tell when a dude just wanted relations with my mom.
Yeah.
So she brings this guy in, and he quickly gets addicted to meth, and he gets my mom on it. And at this time, foster care had already been in and out of our life. They would always take us to our grandma, so my grandma would let us come stay with us, but we would be so out of control, and she worked the night shift at the state hospital, and so she would only let us stay with her for increments at a time because she needed her peace, and she was our savior all our life, dude. I mean, when things just got really bad, no food, no water, she would come through with everything we needed, and it was heaven every time she came. Yeah. But anyways, my mom gets with this guy. I ain't gonna give him no credit. I ain't gonna give his name. He don't deserve that.
Good.
He starts beating my mom real bad, and I would stay with my grandma, but I would start to miss my mom, and I would go check on my mom. And my mom at this time was living in a trailer park. And I showed up one day, and she had a black eye. And she tried to tell me, oh, I fell down some stairs. I was like, well, how did you black your eye going downstairs? Because at first I slightly believed it, but then I started connecting the dots. Well, my little brother and sister, she wouldn't let them go with my grandma. So I was like, I'm going to stay here. And I quickly found out how bad it was. He showed back up. I guess he was having come downs. He just wanted to fight with my mom about anything and everything. And so I'm in there laying in the room with my little brother and sister, and my mom's trying to get away from it. So she's like, my little brother and sister are crying, they're freaking out. I don't really remember if I was crying or not. I just remember being like, I just want to do something. I want to stop this. Well, she comes in to lay with us to get away with it. He starts yelling from out the room, and then he comes in there, and he's like, get up, come with me. And when she doesn't do it, he just grabs a belt and he starts hitting all of us, her, me, him, and just starts beating us, traumatizing my little brother, traumatizing my little sister, creating a monster in me because I wanted to get revenge all my life.
Yeah, you wanted to kill him.
Absolutely. And so
it's a reasonable reaction to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. 100%.
How old are you this time?
It's like 10.
I'm about 11 now.
Okay.
And so my mom gets us out of there. She takes us to my grandma's cousin, which might be my great cousin, first cousin. Not really sure how that works. And so I'm happy. I'm happy to be out of there because I just want to see my mom be happy. At this time, I'm not sure where my brother's at. My oldest brother had had a separate father who was doing a lot better in life and would kind of be in his life, which my brother also had it really rough. He's 3 years older than me. Well, anyways, she brings this guy to my cousin's house, and I caught it. I would know when something was up. It was late at night. She thought she was, getting something over my head, which I was like trying to be her protector, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
I look outside, I see he's there, and immediately in my heart I decided, I'm getting out of here. I'm not staying here. So the next day, a little bit of suicidal thoughts were mixed in there. I start running down the highway, and I started standing in front of 18-wheelers, and my mom couldn't catch me, so she calls the state troopers, and state troopers show up, and they asked me, like, are you trying to kill yourself? And I said, maybe. And he was like, well, since you said that, we're going to have to do an MHMR evaluation. To be honest with you, I had been so familiar with the system that I knew questions, how to answer them to get away from them.
At the age of 11.
And I knew how to answer questions to get into a situation where I could actually ask for help. And, I know most people know this. It's common in the hood that, hey, man, we don't mess with any law enforcement. We don't talk to anybody. We make it happen on our own, which had kind of already been instilled with me because at one point I ran away at a younger age. And when I saw the police, and the first time I was ever going to be like, hey, I need help, they're like, you ran away from home. They put me in cuffs and took me back. So I was like, those dudes are useless. That's my perspective. Well, anyways.
So how old were you the first time you were put in handcuffs?
Maybe 7 or 8.
You ran away from home and the cops
put
you in handcuffs at 7.
Yeah, but this
and
is
took
common.
you back home
Because of the area that you lived in.
Yeah,
right?
it's common.
I mean, when he says the hood, he was in the projects.
Yeah, I get it,
I know
but,
you
like,
know that.
At what, like,
I'm also, trust me, the thoughts you have right now towards
okay,
those.
because I work with law enforcement. I mean, not that you
Dude,
don't, right? Like, I'm a chaplain for a local police
I
department.
love law
we
enforcement,
do
and
I
I
do
hear
tons of stuff
this,
with law enforcement.
And I'm ashamed
I
that
can't.
they would handcuff a 7 or 8 year
I
old.
can't imagine there's anywhere in our SOPs, because I know what those SOPs look like, because I'm the one that's talking to officers from different departments whenever they have to pick up a kid that has run away or been kidnapped or whatever. Like, I'm one of their calls on their peer support boards. They're like, hey, we just had to pick up a kid who ran away from home, and I legally had to take him back home. I don't know how I'm feeling about this. Like, I'm one of those phone calls. None of those guys have ever put a 7-year-old in handcuffs.
Well, to give the guys some credit, I feel that.
No.
Okay.
Let them.
I'll let you do what you want to do, but
There was a lot of kids.
That sticking
man.
out to me is insane. But you're right. Like, there's different SOPs for different neighborhoods, and there are legitimate threats with some kids in some neighborhoods for the exact same reason, that you want to protect your mom, right? And you don't know that the environment that you're growing up in is not normal or it's not good. It's just, that's what you know. And there are a lot of those kids that would
that are legitimately gangbanging at that age, which is
because
crazy to think about.
Because
100%.
they feel like they have to protect their parents or their family or whatever they've got going on at home. And so there are some that are armed and all that kind of stuff. So
Would it give some context? I mean, even the skating ring that I would go to as a child, it got closed down because kids were stabbing each other.
Good grief.
I mean, yeah, it was very common, dude. I mean,
Kids.
yeah, 100%.
Not young adults, but kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so you leave. They say, hey, we're going to have to bring you in for mental health, right?
Right.
Checkup or evaluation. Okay, and then what does that lead to?
So, my mom was real disappointed when I answered the questions the way I did, but I was just done. I no longer wanted to be there. And so when they asked me certain questions, I used it to my advantage, and they sent me to Rivercrest in San Angelo. And this place, you're usually only supposed to be there 3 to 5 days. And I'll tell you what the first day was like. They let me sleep in. They don't let you sleep in after the first day, but they let me sleep in, wake me up at 10, and I get a plate full of eggs, bacon, and blueberry muffins, and I was just ecstatic. I was like, oh, I can get used to this. Like, immediately. This is nice. I got a good bed. These people ain't telling me what to do already. And so it was cool, man. I liked it. I got 3 meals a day. They let me get seconds and thirds, and I was just like, the food alone, dude, what do I do? I need to start paying rent? Like, what do I got to do? But all jokes aside, on the third day, I was supposed to be leaving, and before they wanted to let me go, they wanted to do an evaluation of my guardians, which was my grandma and my mom. Well, a fight got provoked. They said, we don't think it's good that he goes back. I ended up being there for 30 days with no information, no contact to my family, no idea of what was going to happen. And then on the 30th day, they're like, pack your stuff, you're leaving. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go home. I got in the car, and they're like, so we're taking you to Lubbock, and you're going to foster care. And the panic set in. I was like, I don't know who these people are, what's about to happen. But, you know, they said the one good news that we can give you is that if you spend one day in the Texas foster care system, the state of Texas will help pay for your college tuition. And so I remembered that later down the road, and I've been considering college. But yeah, when I was in foster care, it had its ups and downs, mainly because I couldn't have contact with my family. I wasn't allowed to go hang out with friends. I wasn't allowed to go out and do anything social. I had to stay at home all the time. But the good thing is that I got to eat good. Like, food is I love food. Everybody knows. I went into foster care 98 pounds and left 156 within a 9-month period. So we were eating good. That was the best part. And I had matching clothes.
60 pounds.
And I had matching clothes too. So I had grown up with holes in my socks, holes in my shoes. You know, never had the fits. You know, so it was a good experience overall.
Okay. How long are you in foster care?
Little more than 9 months.
Okay, so 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is this about the time that your dad gets out of prison?
Okay, so to be honest with you, every day was just a day to survive.
I get it. Yep.
That the years, every day is like a year felt like 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. So better question. When your dad gets out of prison, what happens? Like, you try to build a relationship with him? Does he try to build one with you?
So I'm Native American. My grandfather was full-blooded. The tribe stepped in. I'm Osage and Cherokee. They stepped in and got me out of foster care. I get home, and things are still real jacked up. And this is an event I'd never really tell people about. I tried to hang myself from a ceiling fan, and my little brother walked in, and that traumatized him. It scared him to death. And ultimately, when I look back at it now, I was just seeking attention and real love. You know, I was lost. And so my grandma, working at the state hospital, she's to her wits' end. I would give her full credit, dude. She's got 4 of us to deal with, plus my mom's crazy boyfriends. My grandma's gangster. She would pull up and spray my mom's boyfriends with wasp spray in the face. She's legit. Yeah, she's legit.
Wasp spray?
Yeah, she's old school, man.
Dang, dude.
There were 7 of her and her siblings total, and her dad was like, all the girls are gonna learn how to do men's stuff, and all the guys are gonna learn how to do the women's stuff, and vice versa.
It'd be self-sufficient.
Yeah, self-sufficient, man. And so my grandma was always like, I used to work on the train tracks. Come feel my neck. I got a big old muscle on my neck. She's hardcore, dude. I love her to death. She had
That's how she got that button down that wasp spray so quick, because of that railroad muscle.
Yeah.
Spraying someone with wasp spray?
Dude, I've been hit with pepper spray a couple of times in my life, and it's miserable.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine.
She's protecting her flock.
100%.
Bro.
Shout out to your grandmother.
Dang.
Hey, shout out, Grandma. I love
Yeah.
you. So I get out of foster care. That situation happens, and she's like, hey, look, either I get you submitted to the state hospital or you go to live with your dad. And so they reached out. My dad had just got out of prison. He was in Stephensville, and he's living off of my great-grandma. And, the things he put her through, I won't dive into, but it really changed her. And, Alzheimer's runs in our family, or in her side of the family. Well, I get there, and at this time, I'm close to 12, maybe 13. I'm more cognitive, and I'm like, okay, now I get to find out who my dad is.
Okay.
And I get there, and off the rip, it was kind of disappointing considering the people he was surrounding himself with, the substances he was indulging in. I mean, I didn't start school till 2 weeks after getting there, but before I even did, we were getting messed up on vodka. Like, he got drunk on vodka, went to bed, and I stayed up all night drinking the whole bottle.
And you're 13.
I'm like 12, 13 at this time.
Okay.
And so then I start school on a Friday. Stephenville, I will say, is a great place to raise kids. There's no gang culture. All the kids are pretty good. I got profiled a lot. Kids would tell me, why are you acting black? Why do you talk like that? Why do you dress like that? And I had never heard this in my life. I was like, what? I'm acting black? Like, what are you talking about right now? So I started fighting immediately, and that's something I will note. Like, when I got to Lubbock, I was prepared to fight at all times. I fought. I ended up breaking a kid's arm back in Lubbock, and then whenever I got to Stephenville, I fought like the first or second day of school because the kid tried to like move me out of my spot. So, I had old habits just following me, like just ready to go at all times. But Stephenville was good. I was bad for most of the time. I had indulged in substances, which we'll dive into that, but I will give Stephenville credit. The environment was so positive that it rubbed off on me. I had failed 8th grade, and I felt like most people thought I was stupid because I failed, and I was like, I know I'm not stupid. So I went back and locked in, became a straight A student, made the A team in football, started playing football. And not to skim too much past it, we'll go back, but my dad never came to one football game. No one was ever there for any of my sporting events. And my little brother, Jonathan, I'm not sure if he's biological or not. His mom ended up dying. I had to carry her casket. He's like 10 years old. He's in a boys' home right now. He was in the car, and they were at the CPS office, and my dad had got drunk, high on pills, and was also smoking synthetic marijuana. And my little brother, at the CPS office, crawled out of the car and into the middle of the street, and the CPS lady had came out. This is a story I was told. She came out seeing this and immediately was like, I'm taking him, and your other kids have to be moved, or we're putting them back in the system. And I had a buddy at the time. He was like, you come live with me, but I just understood what it's like to have the system come through your house and what they can do. And so I never put that on any of my friends. I mean, even when I was in foster care, I had friends that were like, dude, you can get a background check. But I understood by the type of friends I was choosing. I was like, dude, I already know that your parents will probably end up getting y'all taken away. So I would choose not to hang out with kids because I didn't want them having to go through what I was going through. But yeah, that's when I had to move from Stephenville.
Where'd you move to?
I moved to Big Spring.
Okay. So,
and this is the fast version. There's a lot of
depth. I know. You shared a story with me about what your dad introduced you to.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to bond with you.
You want me to dive into that?
Yeah.
I'll just give people an idea.
You can tell the story how you want.
So, having been around substances all my life, I had formulated this idea at 13 years old that it would be cool to try every substance once. Looking back at it, I understand that that's very ignorant, but I'm a kid, and I thought it was cool, And I had relayed this message to my dad, and he was abusing methamphetamines at the time, and he was like, look, man, if you're going to do it with anybody, I'd prefer you do it with me. And so at the age of 13, he was like, if you want to do it, we can do it. And I was like, well, if we do it, just don't leave. And so I tried meth at the age of 13, and within 30 minutes to an hour, he took off with some chick. And so I was up all night. I got really sick after the come down. But yeah, I mean, I had already tried synthetic marijuana, which I won't put that one out there because I love my dad and I want him to get better because he's still suffering. But I mean, there's some deeper stories, especially with that synthetic marijuana. The peer pressure coming straight from him. Like, I couldn't tell you all the things I've seen on that. Like, I've seen some really gruesome things, which we might dive into later down the road. But yeah, so by the age of 13, I was already smoking weed. I mean, I had smoked weed the first time when I was 9 years old. I could tell that story as well.
I got a question about, if you don't mind me jumping in here. Like, for the people who are listening and have no idea what synthetic marijuana is.
It's
right?
K2.
Yeah. And it was something that was legal on the market for a little while.
Yeah.
And then it was taken off because the risks are unbelievable. Like, that people were dying on it pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. And so it was taken off the market, and now there is a for lack of a better way to put it, a black market for it.
Yep.
Because the type of high that you get off of it does cause hallucinations and some other things that aren't typical with regular marijuana. So you were doing this as a kid, which is something that the government and the ATF recognizes as a killer drug that should never have been legalized. Is something that your dad is pressuring you to take.
Yeah, I mean, dude,
and
I've seen people hit it one time and just throw up all over themselves.
Yeah.
I've seen spiritual things where, like, they hit it and they're sitting there and they're, like, not convulsing, but they kind of passed on. I just see tears falling from them, and I just believe it was their soul crying because I am pretty, like, pro-psychedelics in the sense of, like, shrooms. I think they have positive benefits, but, like, this psychedelic was, like, real demonic, 100%. Very, very, very evil. I mean, I got stories for years. I ultimately end up forming an addiction to it later down the road.
And that's one of the other things about this one in particular is that people say that marijuana is not habit forming in and of itself. Now, whether or not you want to debate that and all that, like that is one of the selling points that has allowed it to be legalized in different states, is that it's supposedly not habit forming. K2 it's undeniable that K2 was a habit.
Oh, when I tried to get my brother to quit, he almost threw a hammer straight at my head. Like I tried to get him to quit, and he was ready to fight me for it.
So one of the other things you mentioned was the calm down, right? Which if you are working with people in recovery or you've been around people who have had experience with narcotics or things like that, that's a term that a lot of us may be familiar with. But for those who are listening that aren't, can you explain like what the calm down is and why it's such a traumatic thing for you as a 13-year-old to be going through that alone in your home?
Well, first, I can't imagine how it hindered my development,
Right.
Like my brain, my growth. What makes it really addicting is it only lasts 15 minutes. And once you do it enough times, the chemical addiction, the things I've seen people do, I've seen people breaking houses, steal everything the dealers, like it gets so bad, like the dealers are not safe that deal it, because like you said, it became illegal. I mean, I'm not proud to say, but even I, was in some robberies where I wanted it that bad, I had to have it. And it's really disgusting, but it's a hard thing to talk about in the sense of how broad the spectrum is and what it does to a person and what the means that they'll go through. They'll steal from their family. I mean, when you don't have it, it's very similar to crack because it doesn't last long and you can run through it real quick, and it's very sickening on the body. I mean, this person is a close person to me, but I won't put the relation. This person I know OD'd. So he was at my house, and we had been waiting for it. He got it, got high on it, overdosed, freaked out, had to be taken to the hospital. And as soon as he got out of the hospital, he started smoking it again. Yeah. Like the moment he got out. And he got out that same night and just went straight back to it. So, like, that's how chemically addicting it is to your body.
Good. That's insane. How did you get clean from it?
God. 100%. I'll tell a quick story, and people take it however y'all want. So I was in the projects, and at this time I had already started making the decision that I wanted to get away from it, just because it was just getting worse and worse. The more it got out of stores and more onto the streets, the more people were using chemicals that God knows what. Because at first, I'm not ever going to say it was clean, but it was cleaner.
Yeah,
they were using more intentional substances.
A better version of the horrible drug.
Yes, okay. Exactly. But by the last time I remember smoking it, it was pure poison, which it already was, but it was the worst. I was outside, and I'm in the projects at the time, and I remember hitting it just because I wanted to smoke weed, but I didn't have weed, so I hit K2. And we were throwing the ball back and forth, and I knew it hit me whenever the ball got through to me, and I couldn't catch it. It just hit me because it really, it's a major hallucinogen. It hits me, and I'm panicking. I'm freaking out. This is a really bad trip. I go inside, and I go to the restroom, and I ask my little brother, I'm like, stay with me, bro. Like, I need you here right now. Something's not right. And without me saying any words, I believe 100% it was a demon. There was the sound of not dry heaving, but a roar coming out. And my little brother witnessed it. It was coming out, and I wasn't making the noises. But I was also very high, so people were going to take it how they want. I believe it was spiritual. But the moment I started praying to Jesus, it died down. I was like, Jesus, please help me. Jesus, please save me. Get this out of me. I was panicking. I was on borderline on the tears that I was going to lose my life. I was I needed my little brother there just so that if I did die, someone could know I loved him, Jeez. And so, yeah, I mean, after that, I was like, never again will I do this. And so from that point on, everybody that I hung out with, I would just tell them, don't do it, man. And I couldn't, everybody would stay away from me who did it because they didn't want to hear what I had to say. And I mean, I'll tell one quick other story. I watched 2 people I know and 1 female I know all get high on it. and they got high and they were able to maintain. They left her, and she was laid out on the stairs, just tears falling from her eyes. Just like, it just looked like pure spiritual warfare to me. You know, I just feel like her soul was crying out, because you could see people are trying to hide from the pain. The projects is a messed up way of living. You know, like, we had 12 people at one point in our 3-bedroom projects, and there's cockroaches everywhere, and it's hot, and everybody's trying to get $1. Everybody wants to eat. Everybody wants to get high. And it's like, what do you do in that? You either let it make you or you let it break you. And I was determined to make it out.
Okay. Do you ever deal with any just gang violence in the projects?
Oh, 100%. Oh, so being 15, 14, having hit 6 foot and being white in the projects, people, like, there was just some people that just hated me. You know, a lot of these guys that are there, they're getting straight out of the penitentiary, where it's extremely racist, which I get it. Like, I don't blame a lot of people. If they knew better, they would do better. All they're doing is what they've ever known. You know what I mean? And especially by the time, I didn't get it at that time. I've always been the optimist that no matter what age you are, you could change. But some of them don't believe that. They believe, oh, this is it for me.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. If you knew better, you'd do better. There also comes a point where people know better and they choose not to do better because it's hard. You've never been afraid of hard work.
Oh, no, let's get it.
Yeah, yes, you understand that. However, most people from the environment that you used to be a part of, they don't want to put in the work.
True.
They don't.
True.
Because it's easy to stay where they're at. They don't, it's easy to live that life. Your mindset is not normal. All right. And so just remember that too.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. So gangs in the projects.
Yeah, so I will come back to that, people being lazy, because and I think a lot of people want to be tough. I think a lot of people want to be hard, so they would prefer to rob. They would prefer to hustle, because it creates an image of I'm that guy, you know, which is it's a facade, and they're lying to themselves, and I was lied to. But anyway, so gangs. To add more context to it, I get back to Big Spring in 2013 from Stephensville because of the foster care situation. And I knew what to expect in Big Spring. So the person I was developing into being, I understood, could not thrive in this environment. I knew I had to be willing to fight. I knew I had to be willing to do things that most aren't prepared to do to survive, because a lot of the times it's eat or be eaten. And so I get to school, and I'm wearing my hoodie every day. I mean, the Big Spring educational system was so bad that every kid from the previous grade had failed their task at the test at the time, but now the STAR test, they failed it, and they had to push all the kids forward because there were so many that failed. And all the kids were made to stay an hour after school to make up for what they lost last year.
And that test is the Texas standardized test that they use to assess whenever somebody goes to the next grade, for people who are wondering what that is. Yeah, because it was TOS and then it was TAX and STAR. I think, like you said, is what it is now. So everybody in that grade
majority
failed the standardized test that the state of Texas says is the minimum educational requirements in order for you to move to the next grade, which is essentially, we've got teachers who go to our church and who are friends of ours. They're like, that is what they're told. Teach to this, right? Teach to this. This is the lowest, this is the bottom of the barrel standard. But this is what you teach to, because that's the way that we get funding and move stuff on. They couldn't even reach the minimum requirements to get going.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I get there, and they're 6 weeks behind the educational curriculum I was being taught in Stephenville. And so I'm skimming through, because I had paid attention this year. I'm like, dude, this is easy. I don't even got to listen to you. So I'm just in class. I'm in my own little mood. You know, I'm the new kid in school that's closest to the tallest one there. So everybody's like, who is that? And I'm just not one to talk to anybody. I'm very upset about where I am in life. I didn't want to go back there. And so I heard about this, not DEAP, which is Discipline Education Alternative Program. I had been in there, but this wasn't that. This was a different program that I had heard about, and I wanted to be a part of, because I just wanted to be away from everybody. And so I go to that, and I'm fighting all the time. And then eventually I just drop out in order to start making money for me and my family, because we're just broke. And I didn't want to be one of those kids who makes it to 11th and 12th grade and then they drop out. I feel like that was a waste of time, and it's very common. A lot of kids wait till 11th or 12th, and at least where I'm from. So I didn't want to do that. I was like, if I'm not going to make it through high school, why even start? Let's go get some money. So I dropped out in 8th grade. And my brother Dylan, I met him. We moved to the west side when we first lived in Big Spring. And Dylan and Austin, I love you, bro. Dylan was a very rare type of individual. I mean, this dude gave me shirts to wear when I had no clothes, gave me food to eat when I had nothing to eat, let me sleep at his house whenever I didn't want to be in the projects. He had lost his stepfather whenever he was 13, so he always had a little more income, from Social Security. And so, like, he understood money at a real young age, and so he was, like, that guy amongst us,
And how old is he?
Whenever he died.
Oh, I'm sorry, at this time in your life.
He's about 16, about to turn 17.
So he's, like, 2 years older than you.
Yeah, and my brother were tight, real tight. And my brother ends up going to jail, and Dylan was just such a unique individual. He'd come get me and just give me game, And I know most people ain't pro cannabis, but when you're living like this, a joint really helps. And so me and him would just ride around and we would smoke, and he'd just give me a lot of knowledge, man. And I mean, me and this dude, we'd went to war together. We'd fight anybody. Like, people would try to disrespect or do us wrong. Like, he had your back. Like, he was one of the most genuine dudes, man. Like, I love him and I miss him. And so to lead into the gangs, us being white, having some income, which we consider motion. You're having some motion at a young age. There was a lot of hate towards us. I mean, you got dudes who are 20-something, and they're all clicked up, and they're broke, and they see these young white dudes, and they're getting money, and there was a lot of hate, which I was staying with Dylan. It was me, my older brother, his little brother, and we were just always together. And they decided we wanted to have a lake day. And another good buddy of ours came over and was like, let's go out to the lake, let's shoot guns and all that. And so that meant we had to go back to the projects, which the guy who came over also lived in the projects. So we got a ride. We got a ride back to the projects, and I'll just never forget this day because the gang presence was so heavy. We're in uniform, we're all wearing black. You got these Bloods in there. You got these dudes from the penitentiary that from West. The gang is called West Texas, and you could just feel the tensions were high. And there's some context that I won't share. When I get this book wrote, I'll put deeper context into it. But we knew there was some behind the scenes details that, like, there were some things happening. Well, I tried my hardest this day to get to the lake. Dylan even gave me $10 to pay somebody to give me a ride to get out there, because I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to have his back. And he ended up getting shot 7 times that night, and 3 bullets went through him and hit the other buddy who came and got him to go to the lake. And they rushed him to the hospital, and we were all there at the hospital. And his baby's mother was there, which his daughter's like 9, 10 right now. She looks just like him. They pronounced him dead. And the first person she turned to was me. And she was like, this is what y'all wanted, Ian. And I mean, everybody, his whole family's there. She just started telling me, this is what y'all wanted, Ian. Y'all wanted to be thugging. This is the life y'all wanted to lead. Ultimately saying that, it was a little more vulgar and, and heartfelt. But yeah, she turned straight to me, and that just hit me like a ton of bricks, And everything I thought I knew, everything I thought that being from the hood and being gangster and all that, it very quickly became real that this is not a game. This is a game where we're playing for keeps. And so every decision you make it your best one. And so we went hunting that night. And that guy went and turned himself into the police in Lamesa. And, that's another guy I vowed to do something to. And so, my brother got murdered. And so I'm living in the projects, and everything changed. To be honest with you, it just rocked my world so heavy. I didn't know, like, just to think back in that moment, just nothing made sense. I just knew I wanted to look out for his daughter. I knew I wanted to look out for his little brother, which is my brother, Austin. And I wanted to be there for his family. And it just fueled an anger in me that, like, I don't know, I just was hyper-focused on revenge.
Yeah.
So one of the guys close friends, he still lives in the projects. This dude's a real POS. I told you a story about, one of his kids, which if we want, we could dive into that. But there was a night where I was over at, not my biological, but who I consider my aunt. I've known her since a child. She had let us live with her once before. And he had that guy that's a POS. He had a buddy there too, and they start, trying to create problems. Well, that guy ends up getting ran off. He didn't even live there. And this guy started banging his set. He started banging his side of town. And so I started repping my side of town because I didn't like him anyways. I wanted problems. I wanted problems with him.
So you were looking for the fight?
Oh, 100% with him? Yeah.
Okay.
Every day of the week. Tensions were high. And I don't believe I won every fight because I'm just some cold dude with hands, I believe I won every fight because I said, God, please don't let, because I understood what it meant to lose. Like God, let me fight for the right reasons. And if I'm fighting for the right reasons, please let me win. So I got into a lot of fights and I didn't lose many. And so he called out my brother. He said I was going to be the next white boy to die with Dylan. And that's okay, well, let's die right here today, And so I try to approach him. They break it up. He goes inside, and then he comes back out, and he's trying to walk by like nothing happened. And it's very political. I run up on him and I tell him to put his hands up, just for political reasons.
When you're saying political, you're saying in the hood, in the projects.
Yeah.
There's a political way that things
are done.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I made sure he put his hands up first. As soon as he put his hands up, I punched him. He dropped. I dropped my knee on his face 4 times, ended up knocking out 2 teeth, and he was a blood. And every day after that, the number of bloods increased rapidly. And my belief is that they were trying to become so deep in numbers that if something happened to me, they wouldn't be able to point out who did it. And so my mom reaches out to my older brother who was living in Odessa, and I moved to Odessa.
Did she hear what had happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was dudes were driving by me. I was walking down, I couldn't walk to the store without someone following me and holding me at gunpoint.
And how old are you at this time?
About 15.
15 years old. Okay. So you moved to Odessa, and what changes does that bring to you?
That was a dramatic change.
And not for the good?
No, not for the good.
Okay.
I mean, hustler's ambition, yes, which can correlate to other positive things in life, but at this time it was strictly for illegal stuff.
Okay.
And so at the time, whenever I was still in the projects, the goal every day was just get up, get some money to buy some weed and try to relax, to get some food too, Because generally I had more of a, what we call a jack boy mindset, We'll take it. We'll go take it. And generally we took it not from innocent people, not from stuff. It was, we would go rob drug dealers and things of that nature. People who are dealing, that's our targets. And so I had a jack boy mindset, but I was already starting to develop the idea that was bad karma, and I could end up dead very quickly like that because you have to watch your back everywhere you go, and I didn't want to have to lead that. I would rather have been creating good business from substances than robbing people and worried about my mom getting shot, brother, sister, because people don't care, Yeah. Well, I get to Odessa, and of course my objective is try to get some weed, and I was informed by a close person, don't worry about it. And then within the next 3 days, a lot of marijuana. I'm talking 50 plus pounds, 100 pounds.
Jeez.
And that immediately being exposed to that shifted the way that I went about maneuvering through the game, which it's a game if you really think about it. But a
game that leads to prison and death.
Prison and death. If you make it out, you're one of the very lucky ones. And I'll get into that later down the road of what it means to make it out and not look back.
Okay.
But so I got exposed to that, and honestly, most would see it as a negative, but I saw it as a blessing because it gave me the ability to start having money in my pocket, and I knew how to do it correctly and maneuver. And I don't want to give it too much credit, but it was a blessing at the time, bro. I mean, I couldn't get a job. I was 15.
I mean, yeah, at the time, but now you look back at it as an adult and you're like, dude, what was I doing? There's so many other things that you could have been doing.
Right. Which
hindsight, it's easy for us to look back now and be like, dude, what was I doing dealing? But to you, that was your only option that you felt at the time.
Yeah,
because of everything that you've been around. This is what, the environment that had taught you was like, cool, hey, you have access to weed, you sell weed.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a real facade in the sense of like, don't be a square, right? I ain't making Krabby Patties at McDonald's. I ain't mopping nobody's floor. I ain't nobody's, because everybody wants to be that dude. And it goes back to the music that's being promoted. It goes back to the culture. It goes back to generational habits, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is things that my parents were taught and my friends' parents were taught, and it just goes back deep. And so, yeah, I was connected with some folks across the border, and that led into other opportunities to make money. And one of them was human trafficking. And I didn't realize that was even human trafficking. I thought it was like, go pick up some Mexican homies for a couple of dollars. Let's do it, But that was very risky. And to be honest with you, they say race doesn't matter. But when you're that close to the border, it 100% does. I mean, I have a story where, like, Border Patrol was on us, and I think being white was a major benefit of getting out because we had guns in the car, the second half of the vehicles being weighed down. Like, if we would have got pulled over, it would have been penitentiary time for all of us. But I'm glad I got out of that. I'm glad that I didn't get penitentiary time for human trafficking because I didn't realize that's what it was. I never even heard the term human trafficking.
You were doing what you were told to do.
Bingo. And I mean, it kind of was. It was, but it wasn't optional. I mean, no one held a gun to my head, but it's like, hey, dude, you got to provide for. You got to get some skin in the game. Like, it's not a free ride. Which.
So in order for you to still be able to live and sell and be a part of this group and environment, it wasn't forced on you, but it was like, hey, this is what needs to be done. You need to go do this. And you chose to do that because...
I was like, I'll be honest, I was like, yeah, man, we're hungry. We got a bunch of people living in this house here too, And
you're 16 at the time?
Yeah, 15, 16, yeah. 16 probably around this time, yeah.
Wow, okay.
And so I ended up having to leave there. I haven't told you the story, and I'm not really sure if I should share it.
Share it, and if we don't want it here, we can edit it out later.
Okay. So there was a woman. She was about 26, 27, and she had came to stay with us because she was having problems within her relationship. And I was extremely sexually active as a 15-year-old, yeah. And we end up having to sleep on the same air mattress because she has nowhere to sleep. I end up having relations with her, and then immediately after, I knew something was up. I'll talk about that later. But just something in my spirit was like, something's not right with this woman, and I immediately created distance. She had resentment. She had a 2-year-old and like a 7th, 8-month-year-old, and that 2-year-old was so neglected, dude, that if you showed that little dude any love, he would like cling on to you.
Mm-hmm.
You give him some food, show him some love, like put on some on TV and just let him chill. And it really hurt my heart because she didn't like the way people were treating her, but she didn't get it. It was because the way she conducted herself. And so whenever she didn't like the way she was being treated, she would take it out on her children. And one night I had a dream. I had a rosary at this time. And I had a dream this rosary got ripped off my neck. And when I woke up, I wanted to tell somebody, which I didn't want to talk to her at the time, but she was the first person I saw, so I told her about it. And I was like, what does this dream mean? Like this, like it was significant. Well, 3 days later, she's giving her child a hard time. She's jabbing him in the head. He's just hungry, dirty diaper. And I just snapped. I was like, look, just because everybody treats you like this doesn't mean you get to treat your kids like that. And she was like, well, they're my kids, this and that. And I was just tired. Everybody was letting it slide. So she starts putting her hands on me, and she's telling me to hit her. And she's like, you say you're a man, right? You say you're from the West Side, this and that, right? And I was just like, it don't make me a man to put my hands on you. I grew up enough with my mom getting me to know that. But she's putting her hands on me, she's punching me, and I just push her away. As I push her away, she falls and she rips the necklace that I saw a dream of get ripped off my neck. Correlated to the kids, that's why I brought it up, right? Is the reason why we fought is because she was neglecting her kids. Well, a year later, she left one of her children in the car in the summer while the car was turned off, and the baby ended up dying.
Good grief.
And so I felt burdened by that for a long time. Like, God, I wish I could have read your message better. I wish I could have known, like, how much more of a big deal I should have made this. Because I feel like it was 100% connected. And people can say what they want. I got people that testify that I had this dream. I told people about it. It happened. And the fight happened because I stood up for those kids. And now that baby's gone. And, so that was heavy, man. And that was just another big sign of, like, God, okay, I see you talking to me. You know, like, you're talking to me through dreams. And I've had some other spiritual dreams. But that's just one, you know. That's just one of many.
Okay. Okay. Lived all over West Texas, bounced around. I mean, Dylan gets murdered. That obviously had a heavy impact on your life. Work, obviously work. You're not afraid of work. You know, Pizza Inn, stockyards. I mean,
hustling.
The job that you shouldn't have been doing.
100% shouldn't have been doing it.
And I know, and that's what I love about you is you'll admit it and straight up be like, hey, I shouldn't have been doing that. You don't make excuses about it. So you moved to Stephenville because of a lady? Or do you fall in love when you get to Stephenville? Was she like a little cowgirl? Because I know Stephenville full of a bunch of rodeo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some pretty women out there. God, give me my wife.
That you'll find at church.
So from work, immediately when I was 16, I was like, I got to get on my own. So before I had turned 16, there was the stockyards, and every Friday they would pay $10 an hour. They would have an auction. If you're smart, you'd show up 2 hours early, feed the cattle, get an extra 2 hours of work, and it could go all day. It could go from 10 to 10. It could be 6 hours, 10 hours. So I'd get money like that every Friday, and then people say they want to go, but no one would ever show up. No one wants to go do that hard work, and so I did that. Turned 16, got my first job at Pizza Inn, and I was hustling. Ended up becoming roommates with someone I consider family, and from there I started wanting a woman. I was like, I'm a grown man, no one could tell me different. I used to fight people for calling me boy. I'd warn you once, you call me boy again, I'm not talking, we're fighting. Because I just demanded respect. You had to, man. Well, anyways, this girl actually, ladies, man, love can really hurt. Love can really hurt, So I had actually been with her whenever I had first lived in Stephenville for 7th and 8th grade. I had lost my virginity by the time I was 13, and it was to her. And so I just wanted to rekindle that because I figured where I was from, all the women were money motivated or substance motivated. If you had a little bit of dollars or a little bit of substance or anything like that, not all women, but majority of the women I was around. Yeah, so I was like, I don't want women like that. I want a good woman, and I had to slow down. And so I'll just be transparent. I've already been transparent a lot. By the time I was 15, from that chick who ended up accidentally killing her kid, whatever we want to call it, I had caught chlamydia.
Okay.
And that was a major wake-up call because if it was AIDS, I would still have it. And so I was like, there's no joking around with this. And so I formulated the idea that I'm not having relations with any woman that I'm not willing to have a child with,
And at the age of 16, 17, you're figuring, okay.
Yeah. And so I became very like I'm not just having sex with any chick. I've been celibate for a lot of years, and there's a lot of years I don't care, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
I'm proud of you for that because not a lot of guys can do that, man.
It's dude, you don't want to have a child with a woman who has low morale and is going to have dudes coming in and out of your child's life and will put you on child. I've seen the worst of the worst, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to talk about some of the things I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I came to Stephenville. Me and her had a date in March of 2016, and it was just like reignited that love, and we were like, let's go, let's do this. I was like, I'm moving back to Stephenville. I'll be there April 1st. And so I move back to Stephensville April 1st, and immediately, since we had been long distance for a while, there was some like little secrets. I had been entertaining some other stuff. She had entertained some other things, and it immediately became trust issues. And God warned me from the very beginning. I brought you here for a reason, but I didn't bring you here for her. And I was like, no, God, like, let's make this work. And
Like every 17-year-old boy.
and dude, like, it was very apparent. Like, he made it very apparent, but I forced it, and we were together for way longer than we should have been. Certain things happened, and she ended up, I pushed her away towards the end. I no longer wanted to be codependent. I was like, I'm not going to fight with you. Like, either we're going to create growth or I'm done. Which I had caused some problems in her family, too. You know, I got her to move out before she had graduated high school. I got us our own place. I was providing for us. I'd work at McDonald's, Whataburger, Plus, Hustle. But it just got, it was at the wit's end. She ended up cheating on me. And that day, I knew something was up. I could just feel it was off. And when I didn't have a car at the time, I had a bike, so I went to go where she was supposed to be. And I had a big revolver at the time. It wasn't a .357, but I can't remember what caliber it was. And God just told me don't take it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I probably would have shot that dude that night. I ended up fighting him 2 days in a row. Yeah, but she cheated on me, and after putting so much of my heart into that relationship, and then it just, like, it was like a piece of me got ripped out. Everything, including deaths, the love, the betrayal. I mean, I've been betrayed by some of the closest people. There's a lot that we've left out. It just all hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was just kind of done with the world. Yeah. You know, after losing the person I thought was the love of my life, just everything hit me like a ton of bricks, and I got into a deep depression for a really long time. It got dark. It got real dark.
So you lose the love of your life, and a few years later...
What I thought was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, at the time, it was.
Yeah, at the time.
So the time was the love of your life. And then what, 2 years later, your house gets shot up?
No, so shortly after that, a couple months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the guy who ended up shooting up my house was... So the girl I was with was a twin, and her twin, that was her ex-boyfriend. And so he, I believe, shot up my house because... So this is going to be another story. Years prior, whenever I had first got to Stephensville, my ex was on a volleyball team. She couldn't play at the time. She wanted to show up. I didn't want to go. I was real antisocial back then just because I felt like I was so different being in Stephensville. A lot of these people have been raised right, done right, and I have a different demeanor about me. And but I get a few Coronas in me. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a good time to go now. Her ex-boyfriend's there. All these little dudes are there, right? And I had already punched her ex-boyfriend before. You know, he had been a keyboard warrior online. And so, well, anyways, I'm there and I see all of them. And I'm like, I'm getting riled up. I'm already under the influence. And so I hop on the phone and I tell my ride to come pick me up. And I was like, yeah, come pick me up before I do such and such to these individuals. I won't say the cuss words.
Individuals.
And they're like, what'd you say? And I made sure they heard me. And I was like, well, you heard what I said. And I was like, he knows what's up with me. And then he tried to call me out my name. So immediately I just swing, boom, hit him, and they all try to jump me. And so I just play a game of standing back real wide, fighting all of them. And I got backed up to a car, and the objective was to get back up to it and bounce back up. Well, before I had fell back, I saw one of the guys who was fighting with me in a blue shirt, but my girl had the same blue shirt on. When I came up, I accidentally thought he was still there, and I just swung and I hit her. And that really, really changed me because I'm big about not hitting women, not touching women. And having accidentally done that because I was so out of control with my temper, it was a gut check that from there on out, I would never do that again. But the point is that guy was part of that fight, and I basically beat him up and a couple other guys. And so years later, he's under the influence of methamphetamines. He stole a car, and it's like 3 o'clock at night, and my older brother wakes me up, and he's just in a panic. He's like, bro, I just had a bullet fly past my face, and we have 3 children in the house. We got the parents of those children, my close family, and I'm going to be honest, I was smoking so much weed at that time, and I couldn't believe what was going on. But, you know, I won't say too much about that, but he did 2 drive-bys in a row. Did it once, did it again, and I had no idea who it could have been. The police show up. They're trying to interrogate me. Do you know? I'm like, I don't know anything. I honestly wouldn't have even expected that. So, yeah, my house gets shot up. And when I found out it was him, that also brought a lot of hatred in my heart because he almost killed my brother and he almost killed children.
Yeah.
And he's getting out soon, and I'm still living in the same town. And I always just try to imagine when I see him, I just give him a hug because there's another part of me that wants to do the complete opposite.
Which of those sides wins?
God always prevails.
Okay, good. So you'll know what you need to do and what not to do.
100%. And staying in the Word is important. The music that you listen to is important. The people you surround yourself with is important. If I hang out with any of my old buddies who are still living that, or I listen to even a certain song, that old me wants to come out and say, hey, don't be weak. Don't be, a bee.
Yeah.
Go handle it like a man.
Wow. Being in the Word, listening to praise and worship, and praying and asking for forgiveness and finding ways to work through with Him, I think that's the most manly thing that you can do.
Amen.
Because the other way, that's the weak, easy answer, man.
I always say it's easy to pull a trigger. It's hard to raise a child for 18 years. And when you pull that trigger, you're taking that life. So
yeah. So that happens. You're making trips to Colorado. Why is that?
So, the price of substances had got so high. The price of weed got too high. And in Colorado, I could get it for a much better price. So we started making trips, and it was better quality. And on, the second trip back, I ended up getting busted. And we got pulled over, and they searched the car. And thankfully, they didn't charge us for the concentrated substances, which was wax. It's THC wax. Yeah. They didn't charge us for that. There were some legal issues with the stop and how long they made us wait for the search dog. So I ended up getting that case dismissed. But shortly after that, I got arrested again in December of 2019. Now, this one was also hard. This one was also hard to let go of because at the time, this guy is the guy I considered one of my closest friends, one of the best friends I ever had, just for the fact of how he wanted to help me. So this individual had got arrested for making wax, making weed into wax, and he's not from the streets. He's a homeschool kid who was going to college, and they told him, hey, either you turn informant or we will give you 5 years in prison. This is what I heard. I don't know how much of it's true, but this is what I heard. And so what I thought these nice acts of kindness were actually ploys to get close to me and use me. And so I had already created so early in the years of hustling, I would sell coke, I would sell pills and all that. But I quickly realized the risk to reward ratio was not worth it. So I became full cannabis. I wouldn't even sell concentrates, just weed. I believed it helped and I could make good enough money off of it. And so I had rules, and also since I had got busted months prior, I had went and got a job. I started doing tile and flooring and used that to recuperate some money. And then I was doing both. And it was good to get back in the work game, having sat on my butt for so long, I needed to do something. But this guy, he'd come help me mow my yard, do all these things for free and wouldn't charge me. So I'm like, dude, you're awesome, bro. No one's ever been this nice to me in my life. To even mow my yard was the nicest act of kindness I had ever experienced back then. Well, until I met, you and Raz, you're awesome. Well, he started begging me for LSD. And he was like, I'm going on this camping trip. And I didn't really want to get it for him. But, month and a half, I have connections. I eventually got it for him. It was a controlled buy. And in 2019, they showed up and they took me to interrogation, hoping that I would inform on another person so that they could keep going up the cycle. But I don't believe in telling on others. I believe that if you made that decision, you got to stick with what you did. And so I took my consequences like a man. I bailed out of jail, hired a lawyer. And in 2022 of March, I became a convicted felon, and I got put on 4 years probation, $1,500 fine, which is a lot more with probation fees, and 300 community service hours. And from there, I felt the pressure. I felt the pressure of if I don't change now, I'm going to end up in prison, 100%.
That's good.
And so I took that very seriously, extremely seriously. Immediately quit smoking weed, which... To go back to weed being addictive, I believe if you smoke a lot of blunts, tobacco can make it addictive, but the ritual is addictive. The ritual of smoking weed is addictive. You get used to buying it, sitting down, breaking it up, rolling up, smoking it. So whether or not they want to say the substance is non-addictive, the ritual is, and that's the hard part.
Okay. So you have a nice little wake-up call.
Oh, major.
Like, this isn't like this is a life-changing wake-up call for you.
100%.
Okay. Were you getting ready to say something, Lucas?
Well, I was going to say, like,
Okay,
this
cool.
is...
I don't care. So, I just kidding. Well, I was like, we haven't had any of this yet. Like, I know Kramer's like, wait, why is...
Why is there there's no threatening? Yeah. So when you're talking about the ritual, like, there is something to it with the tobacco stuff as well. Like, so I belong to a group called the Holy Smokers, which is a group of guys that are Christians. We're a global group, and it's men and women that are believers that smoke cigars and pipes, right? And so, like, just about any major city in the world you can go to, there's somebody there who is a holy smoker, and we connect with people literally all over the globe, or when people are in town from like wherever. There was a dude from the UK who recently came in, and he was like, "Hey, are there any posted in our group? Are there any holy smokers in DFW? Like, who wants to go have a cigar or whatever?" And the thing is like
that's cool.
The ritual of that is the same, right? You go to the cigar shop. You normally, like, if somebody from out of town is, coming in town, I'm going to take them to my favorite cigar shop. They're going to be introduced to my guy who recommends the cigars out of that humidor. He's going to talk to them about, the things that they like. Like, the interactions and the transactions are all pretty similar. And then, if you're a pipe smoker, then it's all about, like, getting your pipe ready and warming it up and packing your pipe. Then if you're a cigar smoker, then the thing is, like, how you're going to cut your cigar. There's all of these things that are really similar. And to your point is, like, the ritual of it is what attracts so many people to particularly, like, cigars and pipes, is because, when you get a cigar, you're there for an hour or 2 hours to smoke the cigar. You're going to be hanging out. There's nothing else that you're going to be doing, right? Because you can't go smoke it everywhere,
right?
And so you're either going to be on the porch, at somebody's house, or you're going to be in the cigar shop or outside of the cigar shop, and you've got an hour, 2 hours where you're just hanging out, having conversations, talking with people. And so the addictive part of that has nothing to do with the nicotine. It's the thing that is appealing about it is the fellowship. And I think what you're saying is that that's the same thing.
Oh, for sure.
Like people may not be addicted to the high and the stuff of it, but they're addicted to, or they're attracted to that fellowship. Like, here's a place where you can go and you can be accepted, and we're doing something that intentionally relaxes us, where we're trying to get, entertain each other, get laughs or whatever, and then, move on to kind of like temporary escape from reality.
Oh, bingo.
And that's what, I think societally that we're missing, is because as we've, like, siloed our communities, and as we've, like, done the work from home stuff and all that stuff, we've become more and more and more individualized, and now there's less and less of those moments of community and fellowship. And whether it's, legal substances or illegal substances, they create that same kind of appeal, especially to people who are lonely or feel like they're, not accepted in just certain groups and societies. Because as soon as, like, I don't care where you are, or, where you're from or whatever, you tell me you smoke a cigar, we may not have any kind of, in the Venn diagram of interest, that might be the only thing that we share. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, hey, you want to go get a cigar? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's go. I'm going to find out all of the areas where we're different over the next, hour, 2 hours. And it seems like, especially in the area that you grew up in, like, that was where marijuana kind of began that same type of thing, is that there were bonds created around it. It was less about the substance itself and more, like you're saying, about the ritual.
Well, I will say that too much of anything can be very bad.
Agreed.
So I was a marijuana smoker for about 10 years. I mean, I started about 13, 14, and I stopped at the age of 23. And one thing I will say is, dude, you become way more emotional. People overreact to things. They get too used to letting marijuana be their problem solver. They suppress the way they feel. They don't deal with deaths. They don't deal with hardships. They get high and they try to numb it and be like, oh, it's a bad day. Well, let me smoke,
Just smoke it away.
Yeah.
Or drink it away, right?
Which is mentally weak.
Right? Like any substance that's the go-to, is that it's there to suppress what you're feeling instead of
Yeah.
You know, like you were talking about, like how important it is at the very beginning of this, how important it is to be honest with yourself about what's actually happening.
Yeah.
It allows you to live in denial.
And
that's the danger of it, for
and
sure.
what you just said, it is. You are mentally weak. If you have to drink to suppress, if you have to take pills to suppress, if you have to smoke to suppress, that's weak. That's mental weakness.
100%.
Because none of those things make you better. None of those things are an improvement. Now, if you can take that and say, okay, I need to work through some stuff and go do a workout, well, that's not mentally weak. Well, because someone one time tried to tell me, like, well, you're still escaping from it. I'm like, yes, but with positive benefits. The benefits that you have from going and doing a workout is positive.
100%.
These aren't negative. Sitting around smoking weed there's no positive to it. There's no positive to taking pills or drinking drugs. Like there's no positive, or drinking drugs. Drinking.
I mean, you can drink drugs.
I'm sure you could. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where, and to your point, what you're saying, Ian, that I want to elaborate on a little bit is, yes, you're mentally weak, but that's because you allowed that complacency to creep in.
Facts.
It wasn't like the first time that you do it, you're like, cool, I want this to be my escape and my go-to. And hey, I really want to just waste 4 hours a day.
Oh, and
that would be great. That's what I want to do today. Like,
turns into years.
Yeah. And if you it's crazy, man. Okay. So changes things up. And I love how you have this wake up and you're like, all right, I need to start going to church. And so you found some churches in your area, and how are you getting there?
Okay, so I had a calling on my heart after seeing a video from a popular individual. I won't name him because that might take away from the message. But the message said, you say you believe in God, but you won't spend even an hour a week worshiping him or having fellowship. And I was like, that's not okay with me. I gotta take action. That's a gut check.
Just gets them all pissed off in the good, righteous way.
And at the time, I didn't have a vehicle, so I was like, I got 3-4 churches around me. I'm gonna start walking to them and see how they go. Well, I got this awesome guy who is the best friend I've ever had in my life, named Raz Schaefer.
Yes,
phenomenal dude. And I do jiu-jitsu with him. And after he gets done beating up on me all the time, and just choking me out for fun, he's very wholehearted and asks me one day after class, like, hey, man, do you go to church? And I was like, no, but I was actually considering going this week. And he was like, well, awesome. If you want, I'll come pick you up and I'll take you to my church.
Because he knows that, because you're either walking or riding a bike to jiu-jitsu, right?
Oh, yeah. There was many days I'd walk to jiu-jitsu and walk home. And it was a blessing that the people at the gym were kind enough to give me rides home someday. My coach,
Wow.
Coach Bless, love you, dude. And so, dude, it was a major blessing for him to just, and it's a major coincidence, right? Like big old coinky-dink that the same week I want to go to church, Raz asks me. And so I start going to church, and I got baptized on August 7th of 2022. Immediately when I got there, most pastors will say, if there's a decision you would like to make today and this and that, and immediately I was like, yeah, I need to talk to him. I need to get baptized. And I was nervous, man. Like, to be honest, it was such a 360 or 180. 180.
360, you end up where you started.
Yeah.
That's cool on a skateboard.
Well, according
Not for
to
life.
the most recent Terrence podcast with Joe Rogan, all those things are lies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What if you're rotating while you're turning 360?
Then
and moving positions, then you might not end up at, because he also says 0 isn't real. It's a lie.
Oh my gosh!
For our financial institutions' purposes.
Oh yeah. This is
Bro.
Terrence Howard. Yes.
Crazy.
All right, we've been talking about his maths for a few years that are very, very, very.
If you question any of it, he just tells you how many patents he has.
Incoherent. It's completely incoherent. Yep.
Sorry.
That is the
derail.
To JP's point, if you want to know the real dark side of drugs, go listen to that episode of Joe Rogan, and that's exactly what happens when you stay on illegal nootropics for a little too long. The neural pathways, now everything fires at once instead of there being any kind of new openings.
That's just the universe speaking to him.
Yeah.
I was just saying, hey man, whoever he gets his weed from is doing a great job, phenomenal job. But so yeah, I started going to church.
I can't even take him for about 10 minutes anymore. The greatest thing that they ever did for the Marvel Cinematic Universe was to get Don Cheadle in there and be like, hey, Please get Terrence Howard out of here. We need to bring some respect back to the comic
I told
books.
Ian, I'm like pot committed on this episode with Joe Rogan, and there's so many times I'm just like, all right, and I'm done. But then I'm like, what more could he say?
Bro, when he was talking about making the
Creating a new Saturn.
and that the periodic table of elements should be a circle and not a square,
Yeah, because he created the new one.
I was like, bro.
My favorite is him saying when he was in the womb. His first memory is when he was in his mother's womb.
Oh, that's crazy.
You've got to listen to this episode. His
Yeah,
first
I've seen
memory
bits and pieces of
We were joking
his
about
stuff.
him starting off, be like, man, my first memory, I was in my mother's womb.
I'm really glad you didn't go there.
Yeah, I wouldn't want
You
to
would have
remember
lost
that.
the majority of the credibility that JP gave you coming into here if you would have been my first memory was in my mother's womb and be like,
And the
"Man,
universe-
I got so many questions now.
The guy, he literally says that, and then he's saying that the universe was showing him things that he has now brought to fruition, and he has the patents to back it up.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm so impressed by the will of the universe.
It's even like, there's a few times like Joe Rogan's like, all right, bro,
I don't even know what you're saying.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know how to
Nobody
convert.
does.
It's-
Nobody does.
All right,
I do love
sorry.
the way he says peepo.
I ain't mine.
Okay, so he invites you to church.
I'm glad we got derailed on that. There's always once in an episode I was like, boy, this one is going so well.
Oh, well, he also started comparing black holes to toilets and something like that. I was like, he lost me.
Makes sense.
He had me and he lost me.
It just flushes him.
The black holes, never mind. They're
Yeah.
not real.
Yeah, well, according to Stephen Hawking, right before his death, he may have gotten things wrong about those. And recently, they discovered a black hole that has the emergence of light coming through a piece of it. So they may have miscalculated that, and it could mean that the universe is ending soon in a fiery death, which, I mean, would make sense from a biblical standpoint. But since we can't trust the biblical,
Yeah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
We'll-
Okay, sorry.
we'll ask Terrence Howard about it.
So you get invited to church. You go to church. You get baptized. You're doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then Raz invites you to Pursuit.
Yes. I want to backtrack just a bit
Cool.
to give context to the dramatic change that needed to be made
Okay.
in order to
Yes.
get to this point. So my depression had got so dark that I wasn't leaving my house for like a month at a time. I wouldn't even go outside. And so to get like put on probation, and like I didn't know my court date was coming up. I had a really bad lawyer. I had to fire him in court and like look up the details, file a motion of continuance, and hire a new lawyer to try to get a better deal.
Okay.
Because I don't have a criminal history. Like I said, that charge from Colorado had got dismissed. Had maybe one or two misdemeanors. One of them also got dismissed. And so it was scary, man, because like I hadn't have the work ethic I would have liked at the time. Like mentally, yeah, I know I can go hard, but physically, dude, I was fresh off the couch, especially in jiu-jitsu. Oh man, ego destroyed. But I just believe in never quitting. Even if you want to, even if you think you're going to for a little bit, just give it some time. Just don't quit. Well, anyway, so I get sober, and then I get a job as a pipe inspector at Paragon, and I'm working 12 hours a day, and then I'm going straight to jiu-jitsu for another 2 hours, and then I'm going home and making my food. So like 15, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like we only got Sunday off at that job, and I'm standing in one spot for 11 hours and 30 minutes, like inspecting 850 pipes. So the mental toughness immediately hit. And so, dude, that was just such a big deal because I had never even seen anybody myself, like just anybody in my predicament ever just quit a substance and then just make that switch. And so
Yeah, that's not normal.
but I understood the repercussions. Like, I don't completely understand time, but I've heard you talk about time, and if you just even have a slight grasp of what it means, like, dude, I get mad when I'm not doing anything. Like, I always feel like there's something I could be doing. I don't like to waste time.
Yeah.
And so, Raz asked me if I wanted to go to church. I go to church. I get baptized. And he tells me he just got back from Pursuit. I think it was P5.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he's trying to find, people. He wants people that he loves to go. So he reaches out to his brothers, and he reaches out to me. And he was like, hey, man, do you want to go on this Pursuit? And I was like, well, what is it? He was like, well, if you just want to be, a better man, a better brother, a better father, husband, son, whatever those relationships are, he was like, "This is the trip for you." I was like, "Sold. I want to be better in every way. Let's go."
Yeah.
Which that isn't a selling point for a lot of people, and that always surprises me when I tell them that. But
that's crazy.
So I dive into it, and Rats is real good at like keeping his tongue shut. Because on the ride to Pursuit, I was like, "So what are we doing when we get there? Like, what is everything that's happening?" And he's just so good at maneuvering around questions.
Well, and the reason why you don't want to know all the details of Pursuit is
Every
because
experience is different.
Yes, because your experience, it's your pursuit. It's your event, your time with God. And yes, there's a format to it, but if you went in there knowing the structure, then you would try to formulate your own version of what it should be instead
100%.
of letting like it be Holy Spirit led. So he does a good job at that. You show up and
the moment I realized what was happening, like I've never really been scared to share my story, but something at that moment, I was like, oh, dude, I was shaking, bro. I was like, I'm hearing all these guys' stories, and I believe I don't care if it's a struggle that's way lighter than mine. A struggle is a struggle, dude. If you had to go through some adversity, I respect it. But I'm hearing these dudes' stories, and I'm like, I got a lot to, and I don't want to put all the details of Pursuit, but that moment that you talked about with your brother, I don't want to share too much, but you said something the day before, and it had you in legitimate tears, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Where you're like, I hear a lot of y'all haven't had a salvation moment, and that really rocked my world. I couldn't even sleep that night. You know how important sleep is at Pursuit. I couldn't. It was really on my mind, and it was on my mind because the devil didn't want me to talk about what was on my chest. They wanted to tell me everything, every lie they possibly could. You'll sound stupid. You're gonna embarrass yourself. No one cares. Don't make a fool of yourself. Don't be vulnerable, which goes against what we've talked about, right? About being vulnerable. But I just kept fighting that, and I finally rebuked it right before I spoke up. But I was fighting it, but I just kept hearing in my head, "Deny me in front of your friends, and I'm gonna deny you in front of my Father."
wow.
And I kept hearing it, and then whenever I wanted to stand up and say something, I had fear, and I just said, I rebuked the spirit of fear, and I felt a weight off my chest, and I was like, all right, I got to act on it right now. I got to go now. And I did, and I stood up, and I said that verse, and I said, I want to have salvation. Even though I had been baptized, I wanted to, like, feel that. So I wanted to know that, like, hey, I'm proclaiming it.
Yeah.
I wasn't very public about my baptism. They wanted to share my story at my church. I was like, all hush hush, and I believe that was the devil. The devil was like, no, stay old you, stay wanting to hurt people and kill people. And
100% that's what he wants.
For sure. So
your boldness was incredible.
And I'm not going to lie, I didn't immediately stop hustling. I had a really good buddy of mine who's very intelligent, break down things, and he made sense. Because it says in Sermon on the Mount not to make vows. But, I'd made some vows to do some bad things to some people, and I also made some vows like, I'm never going to stop selling weed, But I had to.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. And so, Pursuit, that was phenomenal. Meeting Cody, Corey, you, Isaac, Josh, Steven, Raz, Dylan Cooper, Russell, Matt Russell. I mean, I'll name every guy off. I could think of Michael Peterson,
Troy
Foster, David Mendoza, Stephen Little, his little brother, his cousin, Tyler, and Austin.
Yeah.
Austin. I mean, dude, this is an important part to me because immediately, I've always wanted to surround myself with high-level individuals, that business owners, get into jiu-jitsu, black belts.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved, like, motivational speaking, leadership, discipline, And so to have God bring all – and I thought I was going to get it from seminars. I thought I was going to get it my way,
Mm-hmm.
God was like, no, this trip right here is going to have every individual that you need, real estate, stocks, you name it. They were all there.
Yeah.
And they were all seeking God.
Yeah.
And so we were all there for God. And to just be surrounded – James Faulkner, I don't want to leave out anybody because even though I don't get to talk to those dudes, that meant something to me.
Yeah, Trey.
That Trey Warren, loved Trey, dude.
Yeah.
He's always got the biggest smile on his face.
Yep.
There's so many more, dude. And I know for some guys, they get in there still, they want to do it their way and they think it doesn't matter. But to me, dude, we went to war together spiritually. And so that it changed my life. It meant the world to me because the burden that was on Mike Brown, the burden that was on my chest, bro, and more came up after I left. And I remember you giving me looks like, you know, but I just at the time I wasn't. I was like I had found a moment of peace, and I didn't want to ruin it. But I should have kept going. I should have dove deeper, and I felt like I had robbed my brothers by not doing that.
No, I mean, maybe not. But again, it's your pursuit.
Ryan Kramer.
Yeah, Ryan Kramer, which we're going to see tonight, which is, as you're listening, last night.
Yes, sir.
But, what's cool about pursuit is it's your pursuit. And as I've gone back, and you have as well, to help serve, you work through more stuff.
Yes.
There's things that you remember that you're like, oh, I should, maybe I need to work through these things. And it's about you and God, and you and God alone, nobody else.
It's not one and done. It's a pursuit for life.
Yes, for life. And I love that you said that. So you have this new sense of purpose and now community, right? But maybe not so much purpose. No, purpose for the kingdom, for sure.
100%.
But new community as well. However, you're still kind of like, hey, what's my next steps in regards to work and everything else? Because, I mean, you put yourself in a bad situation to where, like you said, you said it earlier, so I don't mind saying it again, not going to air your laundry, but you did. You're a convicted felon. And you've been working on getting your GED, and you got your community service hours and everything, and this has hindered you from getting a good job. Like,
yes,
a good job that you're qualified for, definitely intelligent, definitely a hard worker. You definitely care. Those days of your past are gone, and yet you still struggle to be able to find a good, consistent job because, as you've said, people don't want to hire a convicted felon.
Both good job opportunities I had this last month. One because my felony was too recent, and one because I didn't have a GED. And so, and they had me in the door. They were like, "We're gonna hire you," and one found out I didn't have a GED, and they're like, we only have a few positions that don't offer it, and the one that we offered you requires it. And it was going to start me off at $7 more than what I was making previously.
Wow.
But God, he keeps showing up, man. He keeps showing up.
Close friend.
Yeah. So I met this really good dude named Chris Zarati when I was still working at Paragon in the summer of 2022, and he was from West Texas as well, and he had done a lot of prison time, and I could tell that weighed on his heart. And me and this guy, we really clicked. There's not a lot of people from, obviously it's not West Texas, so there's not a lot of West Texas people there who understand what it's like to grow up in that and grow up and make it out and then decide to want to change,
Yeah.
He had been out for a while, and I don't know how long he had been out. I know it was a good couple of years, and he was on parole, and he was doing right. He got sober. He didn't go back to the drugs. He didn't go back to selling.
Wow.
It just sucks, man, because me and him, our main conversations was business, God, and how lucky we are, and how there's people where we're from that are still doing the same thing years later. And that was what we always talked about. And he was very distant at first. He didn't trust people. He had 2 vehicles, and I remember I let him come sleep on my floor for a couple nights because he had some relationship issues, and he was still, we had a time where we had to have a little conversation, but it was good to show him like, hey man, this is what I stand for and believe in. I understand we've both been through this, but after that, dude, he would let me use his car while he was at work if I needed to, man. Go do laundry, go get groceries. He had a really good heart. He had just been hurt as well, and I helped him get his own apartment, a couple apartments down from me, and he had separated from the woman that he had pregnant at the time. And she had ended up having the baby, and he had him every night. He was all about that little boy. And things started to get better. And it's right after I got back from my pursuit that I got to go talk to him, and I was like, I gave him a hug and everything. I was like, dude, I freaking love you, bro. I was like, we need to get you on a pursuit. We need to get your lady on a pursuit.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he's just looking at me like, what happened? You know what I mean? Because
you look like a new man.
he was very well reserved, and he was just like, just kind of listening. And I just had this, I was on fire. You know, the Holy Spirit just had me on fire at the time, and it just hurts, bro. It just really hurts, because after my birthday that you had surprised me with, one of the greatest moments I've ever had in my life, the devil was working on me hard, and I had got sick. I had what started off, I think, as just like a cough. It turned into bronchitis. I never had bronchitis before, so it was like a month before I got it treated. But I was sick, and he had left his apartment before the lease was up to go back to be with his lady, and I advised against it whenever it happened. I was like, hey, bro, just keep paying off this lease. It'll be good for your credit. You know, it'll help you in the future. Just pay it, man. Even if you don't, you know, just pay it. Well, things went left between them again, and he texted me on December 18th, are you up? And I messaged him back an hour later, and he had already taken off back to his hometown. And I didn't talk to him for like a week after that, and I was like, hey, man, how are you? He's like, I'm back in Abilene. And I was just like, bro, be safe, bro. Be smart. Don't do nothing stupid. And on the night of December 31st, New Year's, into the new year, I got a call where his lady was spam texting me like, hey, Chris is dead. And his boy's only 6 months at the time. And you know this, not people don't know this about me, but generally I have a really hard time with crying, and I don't say that to be tough. I say it. I want to be able to cry. I want to be able to shed tears. I believe it's very cleansing. But having endured so much pain, I have like this mechanism where I just kind of go numb. When I hear bad things happen, I just go numb, and especially after getting sober, I just prioritize, what do I need to do now? Yeah. My grandma had a stroke. Everybody was crying. I was like, how do I help now? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't feel like there's a time to be emotional, which I know it might just come all out one day, but I shed a quick tear, and I locked up again, and I was just, he got shot 5 times in the head, execution style, within 2 weeks of being back in his hometown. Bro. Within being back in his hometown, he sold his car, and I guess he might have indulged in buying some substances and was trying to get back in the hustle game, and he got murdered very quickly within 2 weeks. And so I started a men's Bible study with my guy Travis Paul and Brandon Sanchez, and also I'm going to do one with Taylor Sublet. Love you, bro. Love all y'all. And when we were doing the Bible study, I like to use the story of Sodom and Gomorrah as a reason to never look back and to let that lifestyle go, because you know the story that his wife looked back and she turned to ash, and I feel like same thing with what happened to my buddy, and if it could happen to me, that if I look back and I go back to it, that's how quickly the devil will want to snatch you up, because he knows, like I know the devil knew that he wasn't gonna stay in that. I know my brother Chris had a change of heart, and he was just lost. He was looking to resort to old habits to find freedom. I don't know what he was searching for, but I know it wouldn't have lasted, and I believe that's why the devil snatched him up so quickly. Yeah. And now his boy's turning 2 in like a month or two. And I told my church, and they helped provide diapers and things to look out for him. And I just want to be a positive role model for him. I want to help, like when he gets older, his mom's okay with it. I want to help try to get him in jiu-jitsu. I want to help surround him with guys like us and just put those positive influences in his life and I want to be able to tell him his dad was a good dude, because his dad had it rough, you know. And so, yeah.
So you've made, some shifts in your life, different priorities. You are a part of Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu. You come and help out. You've been to Pursuit. You service Pursuit. You help with the Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu events. I mean, you live 90 minutes away, and you drive 90 minutes, and you're always trying to bring guests with you to 100%. These events. What is it, because you want to be around the brotherhood? Is it the fellowship? Is it just a discipline commitment thing to you? Like, why do you make that a priority? I mean, we have people local that won't drive 15 minutes because it's a minor inconvenience in their schedule. Yeah, you'll drive 90 minutes, show up early, help set up things, stay late, clean up, and then head home. Like, what? Why?
All of the above, okay. Honestly. First, the brotherhood. Steven, Josh, Isaac, you, every guy I get to see that's been to Pursuit, that's always at the events, that's major. The spiritual warfare that comes behind it. I always, when I find out there's an event, every week leading up to it, I'm promoting it. I'm happy I'm going, and then the week that it hits, the devil's like, you don't need to go there. These people don't care about you. It's just gets in my ear real hard, and every time I go, I never regret it. The testimonies that happen at Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu are one I think everyone should hear. You should be there. You should be listening to it, even if you don't train. I mean, the last one we had was John Earl. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And also, they paid for me to go with them last year to the Colorado event, and that meant the world to me, bro. To be able to get out of state, and them be able to wait for me to get approved by a judge to even go out of the state, to pay for my hotel.
I didn't even think about that. For you to go do ministry work, you have to get approval.
Yes. Yep, I had to get approved from a judge, man. And that's another thing the judge told me too. He's like, dude, if you get in trouble once, I'm going to show no mercy. He's like, I don't want to hear any I don't knows or any of that. So I took it serious.
And that's
valid.
Fair. That's a very valid thing for that judge to say to you.
For sure. And so, dude, me and Blake Gibson rode together, dude. I got to chew his ear off for 13 hours. I love Blake, dude.
Dude, Blake is a good human.
He has an amazing heart. And
yeah.
So, yeah, me and him got to learn a lot about each other, which at the time, I feel like I had some things on my chest. And so it was just good to get out, dude. And they paid for my hotel. They gave me money for a food budget. Like, I'm dead broke at this time. They did not have to do this.
Well, that's what the Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu ministry does because of our sponsors and donors, is because people donate to Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu regularly, because they sponsor episodes. It allows us to set aside a very small, limited budget for travel to go do these events. Towards like, hey, we're going to go do a Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu in Colorado. Well, guess what? That costs money because of travel, hotel, meals, all that stuff.
Yep.
And so because of people's generosity and, just the awesome people that support the ministry, it was able to put you in a position to where you were able to go serve. This wasn't like a, hey, come hang out free trip. Like, it wasn't like they didn't do that so you could just bro out.
No.
They did that because it's like, hey, we've got work to do. We are spreading this ministry. We've got work. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be a 13-hour trip, right? It wasn't like some cool vacation. Now, was it cool? Yes. However, there was work to be put in. And so that's, I'm thankful for everyone that helped support Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu, because that was an impactful trip for you as well.
Yes. Shout out to Michael Bowen.
Yes.
He's the one who has the gym out there, Bomb Jiu-Jitsu. It's an amazing gym. They got 2 major mat spaces. It was the first event and the only event we got to barbecue after. Dude, nice. It was so good. The picanha. And then he has his wife who has a business that's connected to the gym.
A little boba tea.
Yeah, dude, they were giving us so much free boba tea. I was like, it's so good. It's so good.
I know you like to eat. So I think this is a good spot for us to kind of like close it out, just because we'll want to be respectful of your time and our listeners' time. And man, I want to thank you for what you shared, because that brings us to current day, which is cool. And as you continue to go out there and just deliver impact to other people and find your way and continue seeking the Lord. Like Ian, I know I've told you this and I'm proclaiming this on this podcast is, God's grace is real. He will continue giving you grace and forgiveness and redemption as you continue to seek him.
Amen.
And there will be job opportunities in the future that are going to be legitimate, that will change your life. It's never an instant overnight fix, right? And you've just got to understand that you've got some work to do. Like we all do. We all have work to do. That's, you're like last night when we were talking, you're like, hey bro, I feel like, there's weight and you need a vacation. And I'm like, that's just how I live my life, man. I'm good, because I know the burden associated with having a family, with having businesses, with being a part of the things that I'm a part of. Like, for me, for everything that I do with Echelon Front, like there's a heavy burden associated with that. Now, it's changed my life for sure, absolutely. But the burden isn't because of the financial aspects. The burden is because I recognize the legitimate impact Echelon Front has to change people's lives. And as you continue growing and maturing with the Lord and just in life, you'll start to feel more of that. And what's cool is God has built you to endure and to work hard. So
Amen.
Don't forget that, my man. Yeah.
I just want to shout out my
please.
brother J-Mo from Colorado. We got to see him at the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu event.
Yes.
This is a shirt from Positive Mindset. It's got a quote on the back. I believe it's strong mind, strong heart, strong life. Every one of these shirts that's bought is some of the money is contributed to help stop human trafficking.
That's awesome, man.
And so I love J-Mo. I want to shout him out. He's been there for me the last couple months when things get dark.
J-Mo's a good dude.
And I think what you said about Echelon Front is important. We're being held accountable. Since I became a pursuit brother and people see me at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, they follow me. And it's like now I have accountability. You know, I can't be out here being stupid, man.
You can't. And you won't. And I know that. Lucas, what do you got for Ian before we wrap this up?
So
many things.
Yeah. I've got a list of stuff, but there's a couple of things that I kind of want to draw people's attention to that maybe don't understand how some of this stuff works, right? In particular, the cost of probation. I think that's one of those things that's kind of mystified for people, because when a person who's never been in the system or around people who have been on probation or something like that, we think, okay, well, you're on probation. That just means you got to do your community service hours and like that's it. But there are significant costs associated with it, which is what drives a lot of people back into the life, because there's not money that they can make otherwise. So talk to us about some of the probation costs and what that looks like, because a lot of people just aren't aware that exists.
100%. As soon as I got put on probation, I had to pay for the Crime Stoppers fee, the DNA fees, like all these different court fees. Like they told me the first month, they're like, hey, you got to have $600 for your first payment. And so I was an immediate payment. I had to pay that. And then I got the $1,500 fine that's broken apart. So I'd pay about $40. I have to pay something every month, plus the $60 fee. Plus I still have lawyer fees. And then I got to do, which they gave me a total of 300 hours. I've gotten some of those knocked out. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that time is money as well. So 300 hours, you know, if I'm making $15 an hour, that accumulates to a lot more money as well. All together, just with the fines and the fees together, it's over $5,000. And I've got it knocked down to about 2,000 right now.
Yeah.
And so it's
2,000 remaining.
Yeah, 2,000
okay.
remaining.
Yeah. So what constitutes as community service?
So they gave me a list of places in the Erath County that I could go do community service at. Some places will be generous and give you extra hours on top of the hours you've done. Like they'll give you 2 for 1. Some places are hour for hour. The places I've gone only to is the fire department. I always go to the fire department and I clean their trucks, clean whatever they need done, help them out.
And what fire department is that?
The Erath County Stephensville Fire Department. They have 2 different places. They have the volunteer one and they have the actual one.
Yeah.
I go to the volunteer one.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things that, like, they're depending on the county, like some nonprofits don't qualify. Like some counties don't count churches as nonprofits where you can use your volunteer hours, or animal shelters, some count them and some don't, which is a weird thing, right? The other thing, like now in your situation, you don't have like an ankle monitor or something like that.
No.
We work with a lot of folks who end up on probation because of DUIs or DWIs, and so when they get out, they've got all the fees that you're talking about on top of they've got to wear an ankle monitor, which the state charges them between $200 and $400 a month for.
Yep.
So now you're marked as a felon. It's difficult for you to get a job. And then on top of that, there is, between $60 and $600 to $1,000 in fees that you're paying every month so that, you can survive. And that is, a lot of people wonder, like, all right, so how does this, you got arrested, you got picked up for drug charges. Why is it that you went back to it? Well, it's because you got to pay those legal fees.
Yep.
Like you might have stopped using, but you went back to go sell or to go hustle because that, those don't get paid. You end up back in jail.
Especially whenever you got as deep as I did into it. I mean, I was going to LA and picking up 10 plus pounds and flying them back to myself because I could get it for such a cheap price. Wow. And when you have connections like that, where it's like dirt cheap compared to the average selling point, you don't have a job. You don't know how you're going to pay your next bill. It's like, it's very appetizing, but I don't care though. I take on the challenge because look at where it's got me now. I mean, as far as legality standpoint, it's not worth it, bro. It's just going to set you back further. And I'm no good in prison. Yeah. Whose life can I help benefit in prison? Whose life can I help benefit if someone's so hungry they want to rob me or kill me for whatever I have? So it's like, it seems worth it for that quick dollar, but that quick dollar can, dude, I had built a code of ethics that I thought was bulletproof, but it wasn't. I was lying to myself. And so, dude, it's just not worth it. If you have faith, so I did have a consistent job, and just to add some context, I left that job about 2 months ago, and it gave me the opportunity to have more faith. And I had been craving it, and now every day I just have faith, and I have different jobs. I do tile and flooring here and there, mowing, DoorDash, whatever anybody I know needs, I'm there. I got it, and I don't care what I'm really getting paid. As long as I'm making $1 that day, that's what matters. The right way.
Yeah. So the second thing is, there's a lot of us that don't know what the process looks like for filling out an application as a felon, because there are a lot of now the state of Texas in particular gives grants for companies who hire felons and felons, vets, and then people that qualify as disabled or something like that. There are grants that the state of Texas will give out if they're hired. And so there's a lot of companies that just don't know that they exist, so I want to highlight that first. But second, when you are filling out things and you're part of that interview process, right, how does that, what special questions or what special things do you have to do, or do you have to bring with you as a felon whenever you're coming up and doing those job interviews?
Well, it's a double-edged sword right now with having no education. They're like, what was the last grade you completed? They don't even have 8th grade on there. It's like 9th.
Right.
So that automatically sucks. And then I automatically always disclose the fact that I'm a convicted felon. I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time and having hopes. I tell them what happened, when it happened. And one thing I can't stand is, yes, a lot of people turn back to it, but for the ones who don't, you still get treated like the rest. Like they don't care. The moment you say you're a felon, people get this kind of pretentious attitude, as if they know you. They can already categorize you, profile you, put you in this box of oh, I know this dude. He's just another guy who's coming in as a felon, not knowing me, not knowing my story, not knowing my work ethic, my ambitions, my goals. They don't know anything about me. But the moment you say convicted felon, so I'll tell them too. And therefore, why I can identify it right now and say, yeah, I was probably trying to use it as an out to say, oh, I got set up, and I, kind of have this innocent mindset. But I chose to sell those drugs, whether he was a close friend or not. I chose that, so I got to take ownership of that and recognize that I put myself in this predicament. But I'm not gonna let it define me. Yeah. I'm not gonna let them put me in that box. So yeah, it's difficult, man. I just had a job who was like, yeah, we don't care, it's fine. And then they were like, nah. Whenever it came, I did the piss test, passed, did the background check, and they were like, nah, it was too recent. It's over 2 years ago. They got guys that have been in prison forever working there right now, and I'm just like, it's all right, though. God's plan.
That's one of the weird things, man, is that you can have guys that have been in prison for a really long time, but since they didn't get slapped with a felony charge, that they could have done things that were more violent.
Yeah.
And because it was classified differently, they may have served way more time, but they get a job and they can't because that particular label is so untouchable.
They got convicted. Say they did 10 years prison time. They got convicted when they got sentenced to prison time. Mm-hmm. So they get out 10 years and they're like, oh, your conviction's 10 years old, even though he just did 10 years in the penitentiary.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's odd. Companies are weird, man, and I won't lie. I have been working to build a new reputation, but the reputation that preceded me, there is hometown individuals who have heard about me, and they don't. I feel like that might have played a contribution to not getting this last job because they told me I was in, but I also recognized people when I walk in the building, and But I did that to myself. It's okay. Only God can judge me. Ultimately, people could cast judgment, but it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to let it define me.
Yeah. And you're working on the GED thing, right?
100%.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a program I'm paying for. It's $27 a month. It's called Essential Education. It offers other programs. All I need is a computer and Wi-Fi, and I got it. So really, there's no excuses. I should already have it. I should have had it years ago.
Yes.
But this is just more accountability, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
and as soon as you get that, talking about the time you spend in the foster system now, that gives you an opportunity for education.
Yep.
Afterwards, and
If I want to pursue it, and I'm Native,
yeah, finding a trade.
Yeah.
And bro, the Native American benefits are so cool if you're able to do that, or if you can, if you're ADD or ADHD. Some of that stuff from the Texas Workforce Commission. They do a lot of stuff for people who are ADD, ADHD, or if you land anywhere on the spectrum. So a lot of opportunities there to get you into a good spot.
I need to take advantage of it, honestly.
Yeah.
I've always kind of had like an ego, like I know my tribes need more help, but they also give out a lot of help. So I'm like, I'm not gonna ask them for nothing. But in reality, they offer like a lot of benefits.
And that stuff doesn't come from the tribe. It comes from
Government funding.
from the U.S. government. So it's money that they're just sitting in their account. They're not giving it to the tribe. They're gonna give it to you if you fill out the
it's
paperwork.
there for you.
Yeah.
I should take advantage of it because I got my roll numbers, I got my cards, I got my membership, everything. So
Yeah.
CBDI
And according
numbers.
to the Babylon Bee today, they're just going to dump $230 billion just right into the ocean as part of the new thing. Like that's
I love the Babylon.
they're great, man.
Well, I know you're going to be back up here for the full-day Echelon Front workshop that we're doing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on June 11th. We have tickets available for individual. I know I was talking with Ryan Kramer right as I was walking in here, and his company is sending 8 people. So
Nice.
that, as of today.
Pretty
and
cool.
a few other of our Pursuit brothers are going to be there as well.
I can punch Ryan Kramer right in the nose.
I would never do that. Strike at your own risk. So, hey, if you want to come to that event by yourself with a small team, large team, whatever you want, it is certified for our first responders.
Yup.
So, shout out to Flower Mound PD for helping host that event for the certification with T. Cole. Click on the show notes. I'll have links up in my social media profiles as well, so you can get signed up. But as always, before I close out with some final thoughts, just wanted to thank all of you guys for supporting. Again, sorry that we do not have a YouTube exclusive Q&A session this week. We wanted to get it done. However, to be honest, it was not a priority with all the other crazy things going on.
With the storms here and the power
Storms,
situations and
Aiden's
all of it.
graduation, just everything, your new baby. It was just like, ultimately I failed to execute and get a bunch of these stocked up sooner. And when we realized, hey, we don't have one, we made the decision that, hey, we didn't say it would be every week, so we will get back to them very soon. But we appreciate just all the support that you guys give us just by listening. That's awesome. Thank you. When you share it, that's also awesome as well. Thank you. And for those that are subscribed and that are commenting, helping build that YouTube community, that really helps us out as well. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you get subscribed on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. That way you'll get notified whenever these episodes come out.
And a big shout out to Oscar Norlander, who's been commenting on all of our stuff from the beginning.
Oh, dude.
Over in
Yes.
over in Europe. I got a draft of the book that he's been working on. I'm working my way through it. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's go. If you want to follow us on social media, I am at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's. Lucas is at Lucas Pinkard, Lucaspinkard, and Ian is at IanBHamilton. That's Ian B. Hamilton.
Is that your middle initial?
Blake, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was your middle initial or if this was just like you're trying to be cool like Ian B. Hamilton.
Nah, it sounds good though, huh?
It does, yeah.
I'm just that great, man.
All right.
Here it is. There it was. There it was, Ryan.
Thank you,
He
Luke.
stopped himself.
Thank you, Lucas. If he's even still listening. Make sure you guys are following Echelon Front at Echelon Front. If you want to learn more about what we do at Echelon Front, go to echelonfront.com. Love to see you guys at a future event or for any of our instructors to come work with you guys. We have our LDAP program. We have our FTXs. We have the council, the battlefield review, the women's assembly coming up in September. If you are even thinking about that, if you are a lady that wants to just learn more about what we do at Echelon Front in regards to the leadership principles and how it can be applied to what you do and your family and your community and your business, check it out. Come to the women's assembly. It's awesome. We have some musters coming up. FTX 014 is sold out. That's going to be in September. So we have the next one that we will be releasing very soon this year. If you want, also check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA ministry that I'm a part of with Isaac, Stephen, Josh. We also have a podcast where we also have a podcast called the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We do live events about once every 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 weeks at different gyms, where we start off with a free jiu-jitsu seminar from a very high level, most of the time world champion, black belt. Someone shares their quick testimony, and then we open it up for open mat and training, which has been awesome. Also, I'm a partner of a Texas beef company called Little Cattle Co.
Get that beef.
Yeah, dog.
Amen.
If you want to follow us, we are at Little Cattle Co. My best friend Steven started the company with his wife back in 2017. My wife and I partnered with them early 2023. Our website is littlecattle.co, so it's our name as a website. We deliver beef anywhere in the lower 48 states, and we just released a new product from the tallow. So we have tallow body butter and lip balm. It's incredible, the benefits of that beef tallow. I don't wear sunscreen anymore because even when I'd wear it, I get burnt. So I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not going to wear sunscreen anymore. I don't want the chemicals on my body. And since we created our beef tallow product, I've been using that after I've been out in the sun all day long, and I don't peel. I don't like. I might be burnt, but it's like literally the next day, it's good to go. Doesn't hurt, doesn't peel, it's absolutely incredible. Check that out. If you want anywhere in the lower 48, we can send boxes of beef to you, your family, customers, friends. Same with that tallow. If you're looking for a unique way to show them appreciation any time of the year, we have that ground beef subscription. I know you're on that ground beef subscription.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting my 20 pounds a month.
Let's go.
They run out way fast.
I'm going to say it again. The people need 30-pound options, so hopefully we were able to facilitate that soon. Also, another business I'm a part of, On the Path Printing. My best friend Josh Strasberg and I started that company, and we are up and running, my friends. We are printing T-shirts. It is going to be awesome. So if you're looking for any type of support in your apparel printing needs, you can go to our Instagram page. It's On the Path Printing, and hit up Josh and he'll get back to you. But lastly, before we thank Origin and Jocko Fuel, make sure you're checking out Bruiser Arms. It's a company that Leif, Jocko, and I started. You can check us out on Instagram. It's at Bruiser Arms. Leif and I are going to be putting out some content soon about some training opportunities and some gear opportunities that we have. So really looking forward to that. Also, as I've said multiple times, I just always want to thank Origin for the support that they've given us since day one. Pete Roberts, Amanda Roberts, Dedeco, it's incredible what you guys created. And then you partner with Jocko, and it's just been incredible to see Origin grow and just at the point that it is right now. And, the creation of Jocko Fuel that used to be Origin Labs, it's been awesome to see all that stuff going on. So if you want to check out some of the absolute best full American-made jiu-jitsu gis, rash guards, jeans, boots, pants, hunting line, all the stuff's 100% American made. Best supplements out there on the market. Go to originusa.com, and then you can also go to jockofuel.com to get your supplements and clean energy drinks. Before I close it out with my thoughts, Ian, do you have any final thoughts or words for our listeners?
No, just thank you for having me, brother. It's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to know y'all, and I think this is a great opportunity to help shed awareness, and if I can change just anybody's life through this testimony or give anybody encouragement, that's all glory to God.
Well, I definitely know that you've made an impact on my life, and I'm willing to bet Lucas's life as well from today, from the stories that you've shared, the conversations that we've had, so I know our listeners will feel the same way. And so my closing thoughts is just a simple reminder: the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar, and God has amazing, incredible plans for each and every one of you. No matter what's going on in your life, you have the choice to take ownership. You have the choice to do the right thing. You have the choice to work through whatever is in front of you and pursue a greater life for you, and also hopefully to be able to pursue the kingdom. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that is needed and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 36.